there was almost not going to be a vPub this week, just because of the amount of focus and energy I'm putting into the OSWA's nominations announcement that's coming tomorrow night. I was a wee bit mindful of that, and I thought that it would be okay to kick the vPub down the road for a week. And then I realised that's not fair. The reason that the OSWAs even exist has got so much to do with you guys, this community, and the support that you've shown me. So the vPub had to happen this week. And then I come up with this idea. Because of the amount of energy and anxiety and thought that goes into the OSWAs, not just Roy and Ralphie, all the contributing channels and the amount of energy that they put into picking their nominations, I wanted to kind of think about that for a wee bit, but make it fun and make it a discussion and make it more recommendations, more value for the community, and get you involved as well. So that's what we're going to try and do this evening. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll see you in a second. Hello, Whisky folk. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to another Thursday night. I hope you're all doing very well. Tomorrow night is the OSWAs, so it's kind of difficult for my head to be in any other space than the OSWAs, just because of the amount of prep that's going into it and getting it all ready for tomorrow night. And then launching tomorrow, immediately after the live stream tomorrow night, we'll be launching the public vote for everybody to get involved, everybody jump on there and start to log and register their votes. Remember, it's not a one-time thing. It's open right from the 23rd tomorrow evening, right through till the 16th of October. And during that three and a half week, whatever it is, time span, you're able to go back in and edit and change your mind. So if you're trying more whiskies and you're exploring more things, perhaps as a direct result of the nominations, you're able to go back in and edit your response and change your mind. That's what whiskey's all about, let's face it. But I know what these nominations are. Fortunately for all of you, because I'm into my 50s now, I've already forgotten what they are, despite having worked on them for the last few days. But I know what the nominations are. So I have to just keep stum and keep my best poker face on for the duration of this evening, this live stream. And I couldn't even reach out to fellow collaborators that you'd normally see me bringing in other YouTube channels and things, because they've been involved. But it was easy because I worked out that I could just reach out to some familiar, well-kent faces, people that you already know and have come to know and trust over the vPub over the last couple of years, and that's what I've done. Four of us were in before I went live tonight, and I noticed that our hill walker, Roddy, has appeared, and he's dropped in since we went live tonight. So it looks like we've got 4 participants tonight, which is super cool. So we're going to have Gregor McWee, the Dramface podcast host. I know that you've seen Gregor before on the vPub. We've also got Julie Hamilton. She's back for, I don't know how many vPubs she's done, but a lot. And it's always brilliant to have her energy and her fun in the vPub. I've mentioned already we've got Roddy, and we've got Scott Monroe as well, Kilted Moose, Dramface sub-editor and regular in the vPub too. So we've got these community folk that have not, as of yet, up to this point, up until tonight, they have not been involved in the OSWAs in any way. So their opinions are going to be completely from the hip, ad hoc. I have no idea what they are. I'll ask all my participants in the background to take a wee photo of the list that they have and direct message it to me, or send me it typed out as a direct message just for posterity, because they will be scored on their predictions tonight. They will not be scored on what they put forward as their suggestion, as their heartfelt pick, but what they predict is going to make it forward, they are going to be scored upon. And that's where you guys can get involved as well. Not in the live chat, not in direct messages to me, but after the stream is finished tonight, and anybody who's watching this stream over the course of the next 24 hours, right up until the OSWA nominations are released tomorrow night, put your predictions in the comments underneath. Everybody will be scored, And even if there's loads of folk get 9 out of 9, which is going to be quite tough if I'm honest, but if you do manage to get 9 out of 9, and lots of people do, I'll do some kind of random ballot draw type thing. I can't give away an alcohol prize. Of course I can. I can't ship alcohol. That's not legal to do, and we shouldn't encourage it. But what I can give away is this. Look what I discovered. Look what I found. Do you remember these? This is the last ever bag of the Aquavitae set of glass toppers, these Perspex glass toppers. These little things that keeps all the smells and tells in the glass while you're waiting to sip it. Some people really love using these things, especially if you've got lots of strong, bold flavors. It's nice to kind of keep them in the glass until you go to it, rather than it kind of just filling the air in front of you. It's nice to kind of isolate it a bit. You've got these designs, Whisky Evangelism design. You've got the Aquavitae logo. You've got a recycled bin here. You've got a barfly one too. You've even got a vPub compass. And you've got It's Not Whiskey Until It's Shared too. Now, I know that a lot of people have been asking for this, and it's been a long time since I've done them. I might get round to doing them again because a lot of you have started asking for them. I don't have them available yet, but if I do get around to organising it, I'll let you know about it first. However, that's the giveaway for tonight because I discovered a mint condition, last ever item in the stock, and I realised that I could use it as a prize and a giveaway. What I want to focus on tonight is a couple of things. Number one, the concept of an echo chamber, that the OSWAs are reflective of an echo chamber. Because it's all YouTube channels, because it's all online reviewers and an online community, we're all talking about the same stuff and we just kind of echo and feedback off each other. That's a wee bit disrespectful. And it also suggests that we've all got much more time than we actually have. We do watch each other, we do support each other, we read each other, and we like each other's stuff. And all of these things, listen to each other's podcasts, but not all the time. What's happening is that people are not trying to copy each other's content. People are trying to find unique things, or they're trying to find things that are good value, that are compelling, that they want to talk about and share, because that's much more valuable than what everybody else is talking about, isn't it? So the echo chamber is always something that we need to be aware of. But I do not think that the OSWAs represent an echo chamber. I think the OSWAs represent the cream of value, the best of what's available, or it should. That's what it should strive to represent at least. Ralphie and I got through these yesterday. We worked out what the top 6 were, and we're looking at it going, it's not what Roy would pick, and it's not what Ralphie would pick. It's what everyone picks as a collective. That's much more important. And the other thing I want to focus on is the idea that if something doesn't exist, no one criticizes it. It's safe, isn't it? But when it exists, it can be criticized. And I'm not speaking about the OSWAs. I'm not talking about the OSWAs as a concept or as an initiative, as a thing. I'm actually talking about the effort that each of those individual contributors put in. And this year, it's YouTubers, it's reviewers, it's social media hosts, it's podcasters, it's retailers. It's expanded out to even people who own and run whiskey pubs, to be as inclusive as possible. And I want to think about the effort that they put in as individuals, because it's not easy to pick these very specific, very locked down nominations that you know have to be good. They have to pass muster with your peers and with your community. That's what I'm going to try and achieve tonight. Get a wee bit of thought, get you guys involved, get you participating and doing your own thing just for fun. We've only got 24 hours. Tomorrow night, Ralphie will be here in this room. I've got a lot of tidying up to do. And we'll be announcing the 2022 OSWA nominations for everybody to get involved in. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I know I've been missing a lot of the orange flying past. I just wanted to get all that out before I get my guests in tonight. And I want to raise a wee glass to a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine over in the States, Brian, Kilco Whisky Musings. Brian, who bought me a dram last week and I missed it. It was passing while I was monologuing or something. I don't normally miss those, but I missed Brian's. The community were superb and they pointed it out. Brian, my friend, thank you very much for your virtual drama. It was a pleasure to meet you when I was over in Texas. And I hope it's not the last time. Cheers. So if you're trying to get my attention, as always, I'm just going to grab the orange like I always do. Jesse is in. Good to see you. Saying good evening, barflies and aquavitae. That's Jesse Artensalo. Good to see you, my friend. Always wonder if it's Hesse. Dorpass Whisky Tim. Good to see you. Hi, Roy. Congratulations on another season of the OSWAs. Let's make it effective and successful first. Hey, Tim. But thank you, buddy. Thanks for your confidence in us. Malt Brother Ray's here. Good evening, Ray. Ray to Roy to Ray. Looking forward to another great vPub. Good to have you, buddy. Ebhead is here. Good to see you, Rolf. Evening, Roy. Look forward to the reveal and tonight's warm-up. That's a good way to consider it, Rolfie. It's a bit of a warm-up tonight. Carl Van Wallingham is in from Belgium. Good to see Carl. Good thing that OSWAs, but not only whiskey channels should get a voice in this. Maybe you should consider the ordinary whiskey enthusiasts getting a vote in this. Carl, the concept is very clearly laid out on the website. It's YouTube channels, it's reviewers, it's online commentators, it's podcasters, it's everybody. We've really expanded it this year. Last year was a nice proof of concept, wasn't it? Trusted YouTube collaborators who know each other and support each other already. It was nice to prove it last year in that way. We proved it, and now we've expanded it right out. And now, as from tomorrow night, it rolls out to the entire community. And remember, you don't have to only place votes for what you know in the nominations. The People's Choice will be relayed to you in the awards ceremony as a chart. The top 10 People's Choice, the same as it was last year, will be shared with you. I don't know of a more transparent scheme. Whisky with Molly Ben, good evening, Roy. Listen for the next 10 minutes, not seeing the chat. Oh dear, you're not seeing the chat. It's running very, very fast for me. Buddy, it might just be that where you are and what you're doing. I'm glad to have you in for as long as you can be here. And Karen, hi, good to be back, Roy. Karen, so good to see you. I hope your new life is doing very well. Karen used to be, maybe she still is a member of the Glasgow Whisky Club, but that's where I know Karen from. And I hope you're doing well, and it's great to welcome you in. Jeff Whisky is here. They really do look super slick. I think you're talking about maybe the OSWAs. I hope that would be smashing. Tim Hoekstra is saying he's celebrating being a member for 13 months of the Barflies. He's saying, evening, Roy. I predict there will be voting soon. Tim, take a point. You're absolutely spot on. Terrific stuff. Steve Atkins is here saying, good evening from my laptop. For the first time in 3 years, always on the mobile. The laptop is much better because it's easier to bash out and get involved in the chat. But listen, if you're sitting on a mobile, if you're watching on telly, however you're doing it, as long as you just enjoy the company that I'm getting to keep tonight. I can't imagine better folk to have been able to hang out with and just talk nonsense about whiskey and just pick up props and throw nominations out to get a discussion going and help me keep stum and keep my poker face tonight than the four folk that's joining me. Falsgraf is saying, the new parts of the OSWAs seem absolutely fine to me, Roy. Terrific, Falsgraf. Thank you very much, my friend. I wonder if I'll see you in Germany later this year or early next year. And Karen is saying, still a member of the Whisky Club. I'll be on the merch stand again at the Whisky Festival. Terrific. You're coming up to Glasgow for that, Karen. Terrific. Hell's Wood, she's on Isla. Her and Andy are on Isla. Had a terrific wee meet up. Managed to meet Jerry Miller too from Seattle. Listen, there's so many people coming into Glasgow right now. Every single day there are folk in Glasgow, members of my community, people coming in and traveling and doing whiskey tourism. It's so hard for me to get in and hang out with you all. And it's heart-wrenching when I don't make it. Dan Dawkins, I missed you. Gregor Dykman, I missed you. So many people are coming in and out of Glasgow. Sabrina Benoit, I missed Sabrina as well. And it's terrible. Alistair McPhail, how could Alistair McPhail get in and out of Scotland again and I missed him? It's just timing. I do my very, very best to hook up with you if I can, but it's a wee bit tough because there's so much going on right now and too much whiskey time sometimes, right? But I just hope that you have a wonderful time while you're here and know that one day we will be able to raise a glass together. Helen, I was able to hang out with you and Andy again and Jerry Miller this week, and it was a pleasure. I hope things are wonderful on Isla for you. I'm sure that they absolutely are. The Lazy Scotsman is here saying wife and son are out of the country, so getting to watch live tonight. And with a dram too, I can fall asleep on the couch worry-free tonight. And I'm going to suggest, Lazy Scotsman, that you're maybe in the West Coast and you're enjoying the September weekend, so you don't have to get up and work tomorrow, which is terrific. Jerry Miller is in. Good to see you, Jerry. I hope you're enjoying your time in Scotland, my friend. It was wonderful to shake your hand and hang out with you this week. And Dave Larenko is saying, happy Hobbit Day. Let's enjoy the Hobbit lifestyle by enjoying the good things in life, such as a nice dram and a chat full of great folk. Aye, there's been a lot of that kind of just being grateful and appreciative in the last couple of years, isn't there? And I've certainly found it beneficial. We need to be aware, we need to think about it, and we need to register. I am grateful for whiskey. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful that I get to do this. I'm grateful for so many things. Rod Graham is in the chat, hanging out with everybody and chatting. Superb, Rod. I've not been able to speak to you yet, but I'll speak to you in a wee minute. And Harrow Whiskey Weekend Dram is saying, can a whiskey be nominated again this year? Can a whiskey be nominated again this year? Oh, you mean People's Choice? Absolutely, you can. You have the ability to offer your own wild card. Absolutely, Harrow. And MJ Rodden, is that a new name? You're a barfly? Maybe it's not a new name. If it is, it's nice to welcome you in. And if I've welcomed you before, it's nice to welcome you again, MJ. Good evening, Aquavite and the Barflies. It shows that you're enjoying this evolving creation. Looking forward to the Glasgow Whisky Festival too. There you go. I'll get to put a face to the name at the festival on the 12th of November this year too. On the 13th of November, there are plans afoot for there to be a bit of an Aquavite Barfly gathering too on the Sunday, the 13th. More details to follow. Mark, a member for 24 months. Glad to be live again. Can't wait for the OSWAs. Mark, I'm so glad that you're enjoying it and excited to be participating in it too. Whiskey and Wine Trails is saying, Roy, I'll have as much chance of picking OSWA nominations as I have of getting a 10 on a Menno quiz. Give it a go. You might be surprised. All of the things about tonight is just to have a bit of fun with it. It's gamifying the whole thing. It's getting us to think about it. It's getting us to realize that this is something that we're creating as a community together. Ralphie and I have stepped up to kind of create the structure and the space and the framework. Fine. We've reached out and asked, please trust us, to all our fellow collaborators, and they've said aye. Nobody, not a single person has said no. That's curious to me, isn't it? So everybody's kind of going, this is a good idea. And I'm not suggesting it's a massive thing like the campaign for Real Ale and all of these kind of grassroots community efforts. But what I will say is that its intent is absolutely grounded and founded in the right place, the right spirit. And that is to celebrate good whiskies, quality whiskies, flavoursome whiskies, affordable, attainable whiskies, to talk about them and to help anybody that's coming into whiskey understand that the community out there have their interests at heart. Okay, good. How many minutes are we going? 17 minutes already. Ryan Sutherland is saying, evening, Roy and the Barflies. Karsten T is saying, glad to catch this live today. Good to welcome you, Karsten. Good to see you, Ryan. And Too Slow Rob is saying, hi, Roy. Good to have you in, Rob. Always. Steve Atkis is saying, has just joined the Aquavite Barflies. Thank you, Steve. You and all the other Barflies in here. Keep all the Aquavite content ad-free. I don't monetize anything on YouTube now. I don't want anybody sitting through an ad. That's what the Barflies do. The reason I exist and the reason I can pay for whiskey, the reason I can stay independent, and my voice is always my own thought, is through Patreon. That's how this channel is funded. And Helen is celebrating being a Barfly for 30 months and saying, can you wish Hells a happy birthday for Tuesday? Ta, Andy. No way. Helen, you never even cracked a light that it was your birthday on Tuesday. How did I miss that? Aye, Helen Widdowson. Long-term, 30-month Barfly. Member of the community for even longer than that. Many happy returns. Are you going to be in Scotland on Tuesday then? I think you might be. Happy birthday when it comes, Helen. Cheers. Terrific stuff. Thanks, Andy. Thanks for pointing it out. And Rico Denert, my friend Rico, good to see you, buddy. He's saying, is this a new feature? Nice. Wow. Oh, the new feature to celebrate being a member. Absolutely. Anthony Lambert is saying, everybody here is getting excited and looking forward to the OSWAs. Proof that it's successful and going well. Terrific. And that's a good positive note. And David Owen is saying, good evening, Roy. I hope to stay the course tonight. Do your very best, David. But if you need to drop a parachute, if you need to leave and pick it up in the replay like you always do, and I so appreciate it, buddy, then that's fine too. Anyway, let's go and hang out with my guests that I have tonight. These are familiar faces. You know who these people are. It's terrific to have them involved. It's terrific to have them trusting me tonight because they have had to step up and they've had to nominate what they wanted to see there. If they were part of this, they are not. They're purely commentating tonight. And they also had to think about what they expect to see there. And that's where the gamification comes in. So there's 9 categories. They can score a point for each one that they're correct on tomorrow night. There are 6 nominations, of course. They're only picking one each, so they've got a decent chance of predicting it. But I think it'll still be tough to call a 9 out of 9. Let's see. If anybody else wants to participate and join in for a wee, the very last of the last batch of the Aquaviti coin toppers, that's the prize at stake. It's not much, I know, but it's just a bit of fun. Don't put it in the live chat. Don't put it on direct message. Don't put it inside Patreon. Put it after the event. Think about it and list it in the comments section underneath. That's where I'll pick the scores from. Okay, let's reach out to my guests here. Let's reach out to a podcast host extraordinaire, Gregor McWee. Good to see you, Gregor, buddy. Good to welcome you back behind the bar at the vPub.
How you doing, Roy? Extraordinaire, eh?
Extraordinaire, aye. People are starting to know your voice better than they know your handsome face.
That's how I like it. That's how I like it. I can still operate in the shadows that way.
Let's bring in somebody who works for Elixir Spirits, but was recognised by her voice because of participating in the Dramface podcast too. Julie, she looks after the Glasgow Whisky Club. She's a member, she's a director with the Glasgow Whisky Festival, and she's also a brand ambassador for Elixir Spirits. Julie, I wonder how many Elixir products we'll see in the lineup tonight. The more the merrier. The gloves are off tonight. You do not need to be impartial. If you want to talk about your products, then I expect and I would love to see you do that. Don't worry about it. Welcome back behind the bar. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Next, we've got I don't know if he's in a very different environment tonight. We've got Scotty Monroe, Kilted Moose, who's been on the vPub more times than I can count, but he's never been on the vPub from his camper van, which is just absolutely terrific.
Hello, everyone.
If the heat around you starts to drop off a wee bit, I hope the whiskey can keep you warm, my friend.
It's the only thing keeping me warm right now. It's freezing, but it's all right. Glad to be here.
Well, maybe need to keep it neat tonight just because Scotty is stuck in a camper van. Fantastic stuff. It's brilliant. You can join us from there.
Thank
and
you.
Fresh off the mountains, I think we've got our resident Roddy. I hope he's in good shape to come in. He is. This is the first time I've spoken to him tonight. How are you feeling, Roddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Roy. Thank you. It was we did Craig Leich up at Glenshee, so it's just one. So I don't know how to say it either.
Did the rain hit you? I noticed the rain passing across earlier today. It dried.
No, the weather was amazing actually. We were very lucky, so it was an absolutely fantastic day.
Roddy used a word today that I've not used since I think I was a teenager, and he said, "I might appear drucket." He said, "It made me pine after the Bruins drucket," a Scots word for being completely soaked. But it's nice to see you dry and fresh, and Roddy, it's nice to have you back behind the vPub.
Roy,
Go ahead.
I need to ask a question of Roddy because I see his little Lego Roddy, and I remember you saying he was under instruction that should go above his toilet. Is that to suggest Roddy's calling in from the toilet?
Hold it up. Let everybody see what Gregor's talking about there. There we go.
That's brilliant.
So, and if anybody is in the chat, like Andy Cross tonight, have a wee look in a live chat, and you can use that very same Roddy emoji. For the amount of time, the amount of wisdom, the amount of sharing that Roddy's done behind the bar at the vPub, we honoured him with his very own emoji, and we gave him a wee one to hang in the bathroom too. Well done for noticing that, Gregor. Terrific stuff.
That's ridiculous.
Guys, I don't know what you think about the OSWAs. I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on that. We're just going to bang straight into the categories. But I'll ask you first, Julie. Was it hard?
Yes.
To come up?
Yes.
Was it hard? Why was it hard? Why you work in whiskey? You're in front of whiskey all the time. You touch whiskey, you drink whiskey, you sell whiskey. You know about whiskey. Why was it hard? Why was it hard to pick a nomination?
Do you know, it's the same as when we did the order the whiskey in your favourite. In the order of your favourites. It's like homework you give me every time I come on here. But it's hard because when you actually take a step back and you try and think about the kind of categorizing things, it's difficult. It's difficult to nail it down to one or two. So yeah, I did find
and
that
I've put
hard.
you in a difficult position tonight, and I appreciate that for all four of you, because the contributors behind the scenes are really putting their heart and soul into it, but they're never going to be exposed unless they share it themselves. They're never going to have to tell anybody what their nominations were, but they know that they're going to be judged by their peers. They know that they want their nominations to be meaningful, so they do put a lot of effort into it. You guys are stepping up tonight and you're going to be holding up or speaking out what your nominations are. So it is a wee bit different, but you do have the same weight behind it, because you know you do want it to be a meaningful nomination. Unless you're Roddy, who's probably going to just be completely. I can't wait to hear Roddy's, because one of the reasons that I was keen to have him in is because of how off the wall he can be and how he often makes me think about whiskey from a different perspective. Anyway, Gregor, you said you struggled.
Yes, well, for a number of reasons. One, because I couldn't skip any. like when you're filling it in online, you can go, nah, I've not got an opinion on that.
That's right. That's right.
So I had to form an opinion, and you know, if it's an echo chamber, I'm the furthest point on that echo chamber just geographically as to like how long it can take things to get here. So
supply chain, right?
I might hear a little thing, but it might be a while before I get to sample it. So I made some calls based on some of the noise that I might hear also, you know, or you know, people's posts. But I tried
which is absolutely fine. And people need to understand that that's part of the dynamic of the OSWAs. The internet doesn't know borders, but supply chains and distribution and limited stock definitely does. So it is a thing. And unless you do, you're a professional at smuggling back your own allocation, let's be honest, right, in your suitcase. But unless you choose to do that, it's going to be a long time coming for some of the releases for you out there in the West Coast of the US.
And I think it's fair to say I used that criteria, you know, for some of it. I was like, if it made it to my case on this year, then it gets on the list. So that was my barometer.
Well, I'm glad that you've put the effort in. Scotty, I know, and I predict that I have to keep a poker face tonight, but I predict that if there's anybody I could reach out to on this planet that is likely to put forward the same nominations or similar nominations to me, it is likely to be you. Let's see if that pans out tonight. Did you struggle, or were you trying to be creative? Were you trying to be off the wall, or did you just genuinely just put down your best foot forward?
So for my guesses, it's quite difficult because, you know, as has been mentioned already, depending on where the votes are going to be coming from and what's, you know, products that might be easy for us to get might not be, you know, easy for other people to get in different countries and stuff like that. So I've tried to kind of keep the guesses to kind of more general thing, or what I think would be available in different regions or easier to get than different regions, rather than single cast or that kind of stuff as well.
But you've not got, for your own picks, you've not gone the same way, right?
No, for my own picks, I've gone for a variety of things. Ones that you're fairly easy to get, I think. Other ones that are a bit more difficult to get, and maybe one or two that you can't get, but I couldn't not mention them, if you know what I mean, because if I'm going to pick my things of the year, then they have to be stuff that I've really enjoyed this year.
Aye, superb. I think I'm most curious as to what you pick. I mean, I'm curious to what everybody picks, but I've almost got a wee mental note of what I think, Scotty. Well, maybe you'll just try it. You'll just be completely different and catch me out. Roddy, go and complete. I think the first time ever that we've had a vPub, it might not be, but in my memory that I can recall, the first time we've had 5 Scots accents in the same, that wasn't intentional. I do try and spread it a wee bit, but I realise it's, even although we're not all in the same spot, there's 5 Scots accents for the first time ever. I hope, Roddy, I almost hope that you don't let me down and that you have brought some oddball things for us to consider. Would I be right, or have you tried to play it?
So I did the list twice, Roy, because I did a list and then I reread your brief, and I remembered, especially from last year, that the OSWAs does focus on availability and value for money.
Yep.
So I threw out quite a lot of the things that I'd initially suggested and thought about everything, I was trying to think about what's universally available and realised that was impossible. So I was thinking about what's broadly available in the UK, which I know a lot of your audience is Firth of the UK, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, best intentions, buddy. I mean, that's the thing about it, is that it's whiskey. There's only so many bottles a cask or a small batch can yield. So many of these outturns are pretty small. Sometimes they stick on the shelves and they spread out far. Other times they're super limited and people snap them up. We can't manage all of these dynamics. And if there is a bottle that hasn't made it to certain markets, but those people who are tenacious, let's say, through extra effort, through using the mule network or the community, can get access to those, then we talk about them. What we want to focus on more than anything is, absolutely, inclusivity, availability, good value, all of these things. But what the OSWAs want to celebrate is good quality whiskey. And that's worth talking about and celebrating, because even if it sells out and nobody can buy it anymore, hopefully in its wake, it'll encourage more good quality whiskey to follow. So,
well, certainly everything that I've picked, I would gladly have a dram of it. You know, even with my own money.
Even with your own money.
Even with my own money. Aye.
Wow, that's exciting talk right there. So here's how we're going to run it. I'm just going to hit you with a category. We're going to talk through it, and then I'm going to just grab this kind of solo view thing and do that. And in between each category, I'm going to jump in and speak to the community in the chat, in the live chat, so that in between each of the 9 categories, I've got a couple of minutes that I can pick up comments and things. So if you're trying to get my attention, please type Aquavite. It lights up orange and I can grab you. I appreciate that that's tricky if you're watching on mobile. And if you're watching on Facebook and wondering why I'm not connecting with you, the chat I'm interacting with tonight is the lounge, the live chat inside YouTube. Thank you for watching on Facebook. I appreciate it, but I can't keep 2 chats going at the same time. It's too hard for my wee 52-year-old head. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Aye,
I'm just going to bring up the first category. I'm just going to throw it out there, get the wheels on. We're half an hour in already. Best Value Whiskey 2022. Specifically, this had no other definitions. We took away the kind of trying to put a price cap on it and things, because the prices are really quite wildly different everywhere. What we're talking about is your interpretation of value, what you consider, what you would recommend to somebody coming into whiskey, but also what you could recommend to somebody who's already a seasoned drinker, enjoyer. Jimmy Leggs bought us a dram to say, I hope Roddy didn't spend his own money on that shirt. That is one of the most sober, somber, laid back, quiet shirts I've seen Roddy wearing, if I'm honest, Jimmy. Roddy is a masterclass when it comes to loud fabric, and I mean that in the best possible way. Jimmy, thanks very much for your dram, buddy. I know you're a big Roddy fan as well. Cheers, Jimmy Legg. Right, so here's how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to randomly pick one of you. I'll go in order that you're on screen tonight. Gregor.
Hello.
Tell me just quick fire, your pick first, and then what you predict.
Good. So my pick, and it's funny because I was pivoting a little bit, and I was going off of something that Scott said about. So I did sense check price here, because I think that's pretty valid. It's not what it costs in Scotland; it's what it costs here. And it's also one that I lament because I haven't replaced. But my best value would be Deanston 12.
Nice. Is that your own personal pick?
That's my personal one. That's not what I think the community.
That you were a Deanston 12 fan before, because that's bourbon, obviously, mostly bourbon cask, right? Deanston 12. In my mind, you're a sherry cask fan.
Well, I'd be lying. It won because it's cheaper than Bunnahabhain here. So I might have chosen Bunnahabhain, but by the criteria, I think Deanston's better bang for buck here.
Well, that's interesting in its own right. Money no object, Bunna you would pick. But if you and here in the UK, there's only a couple of pounds difference in it. Roddy, would you a couple of pounds between the Deanston 12 and a Bunnahabhain 12? He's muted.
Sorry,
He's been up today.
I've got the loudest keyboard in the world, so I don't want to spam the. Anyway, the in our shop they've been having all the Islay whiskies have crept up a wee bit. So the Deanston, if you were shopping with us, would look like
Better
quite a
value.
bit better value, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's about $10 cheaper here. So that's notable.
I think it's 42 and 48 for us.
It's 60 something and up to 70 here.
Right.
That's curious to me. So there's not only a bourbon cask side to Gregor McWee, but also a canny Scots frugal side as well. What would you predict then? What are you going to predict? What do you think's going to make? Do you think Buna or Deanston will make it through to the? Or have you?
No revelations here. I think my predictions on some of the community gets a bit more interesting further down the thing. So I looked around to see if anything can knock RN10 off, and to be honest, I don't think anything beats it still to this year.
Yeah, I think you've got some safe money on the back of RN10. It makes a lot of sense to me. Again, poker face. Terrific. So Deanston 12 is your pick, personal, and RN12 is your prediction. Julie, what have you got for us? What would you pick personally? What would Julie pick?
Personally, I'm gonna go with my own stuff, and I'm going to say Portiskeag 100 proof.
Oh, the 100 proof. Now that's the non-age statement one, right?
It is, yeah.
It's a single malt whiskey. Portiskeag is a single malt. It's not a blended malt. 100 proof.
It's from Kalila. I just tell people.
Terrific. So it's an undisclosed distillery.
It's an undisclosed, and I've got props and everything. Undisclosed Kalila. But
so how much are we paying for that?
55 quid.
And the ABV?
The ABV is 57.1.
So when Julie says 100 proof, we're not talking bourbon.
UK 100 proof.
We're talking imperial proof.
Yeah.
So, and how much is it, Julie, a bottle?
55, roughly. 54, 55.
Well,
a bottle.
I would also back you up on that, but this is not the 100 proof.
It's the 8s. See, I was going to go for the 8s, but because the 8s,
I was going to open this. I was going to uncork this last week on the single-digit age statement vPub, because as Roddy has just pointed out, as Islay whiskies creep up, there's always something behind. Yeah. There's always something ready to step into that space. Yeah. It's fascinating to me that there's always an alternative, and long may that continue. Listen, Julie, if you can get through the entire night tonight picking elixir-only products, not only will I be accepting of that, I will be downright impressed. Good for you. Yeah. Scotty, what's? Sorry, Julie, we didn't get your prediction. What do you think? Now, I'm not saying that Portiskeag won't make it into that, because I think it's valid and it's certainly widely distributed. But what do you think is going to be?
I had put a wee bid on Clynelish 14.
Good one. A nice one. I don't know if it is creeping up in price. It's we've found some batch. Sorry?
It's about 48 just now, I think.
For a 14-year-old, 46% malt.
For a 14-year-old, though, for an age statement whiskey, I think that's sub 50 is quite good.
There's a couple of points through this year where you were getting that for 35-ish off of Jeff Bezos's website.
Yeah, I mean, there were deals on Clynelish for a while this year. There was also a wee bit of batch variation, if I'm honest, as well. But the Glasgow Whisky Club tasting not so long ago, maybe just last year, had Clynelish 14 in the lineup, and I think it was the Blind Dram, if I remember well, and it was a belter. It was a really good bottle, and it tempted me to go back and buy another one, and I did actually find a really good batch again. However, we don't want to blow too much hot air up Clynelish 14's kilt, because Diageo are in full flow premiumization of pricing right now, of Oban, of Lagavulin, certainly of Talisker 18. We don't want to encourage any more of that. Please keep some of it affordable for us, please. I know you're running a business. Good shout. Clynelish 14 is your prediction.
Yeah.
And Portiskeag 100 proof. Portiskeag 100 proof is a good call. Scotty.
Right, you want my guess? My pick, sorry, my pick.
No, I want your own personal pick first.
Okay, so my own personal pick, and I feel like a broken record going on about this whiskey, right? But I'm going to go for the Loch Lomond 12-inch Murren, specifically the inch Murren.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Although that said, you could easily interchange that with the 12-inch Moan or the original. I think.
No, you need to hang your jacket on one of them.
No,
son.
I've got it written down in black and white here. The inch Murren is there. So yeah, inch Murren. I think it's just price is great. It's 42%. It's non-chill filtered. It's just a cracking value dram. And there was a time not that long ago I would never really buy a second bottle twice of anything, and I've been through quite a few of those in the last 18 months or so. But I think for the price and the quality of it, I think it's fantastic. So that'd be my pick.
I would agree with you, Scotty. I think it's about time that a lot more folks started to talk about the direction that Loch Lomond are going in. They're getting it better and better, and there's still a lot of people that have this idea of Loch Lomond because of what it used to be a decade ago. And I know it's hard for it to kind of shed that skin, but anybody like you and I, Scotty, it's not just Inchmurren for us in Loch Lomond. There's a lot of Loch Lomond releases that you and I are sitting down with and going, oh my goodness, thank goodness this is here. Mm-hmm. So it's a good call. Inchmurren 12.
Roy, you should gamify the gamification, and you should have you should write down what you think Scott's going to pick for each of his own guesses.
Right, okay. So what would Scotty Monroe pick? I'm using the only pen that's in front of me is a girl power pen. Go get it, girl. Oh, you got this. Well, obviously my girls have been in here using my desk, but they've left me a pen, so that's fine. So Scotty, I'm going to write down what I think you are going to pick. Not only is your personal pick, but I'm only going to put down what you. Yeah. Okay. So you just shout it out. I've written it.
This is for the.
Yours was the personal one. The first one was the personal, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. This is what he is going to predict that they're going to pick.
So Gregor mentioned Arran 10 there, but I think it's going to be the Arran quarter cask. I think because only a few quid. What did you pick?
I thought you were going to double up on the Inchmurren, Scotty.
No, I think Arran 10's good, but the quarter cask, I think for a couple extra quids, you get that kind of bump in ABV. It's not that much younger than the 10-year-old. Was it 7 years in bourbon and then 2 in quarter casks?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And it's
good
great.
Call. So this is why this is a good discussion, because we're getting a completely. Only 3 of you have spoken to so far. No duplication at all. Absolutely superb. Good eye on money as well. So yeah, I got a donut so far. I've not guessed any yet. I'm going to keep guessing Scotty Monroe for the rest of the night. Roddy, what's the Roddy pick for a value whiskey? If I went into a Good Spirits Company and I just said, you know what's it going to be? Best value whiskey right now, Mr. Graham.
I would tell you to go to the Co-op.
A Glen Grant. A 10-year-old Glen Grant. Wow.
Age statement Glen Grant. 10 years old, which they retail for about 36, but every now and again they stick it on special at £27.
Oh,
27 quid. Yeah.
And it's, Glen Grant's got that kind of gingery thing that you don't get in many whiskies.
So we're not talking beige.
It's far from beige. I mean, I know that Glen Grant's a light whiskey, and it's especially the younger or the no age statement ones can be highball fodder.
Okay.
But once it gets a bit of age on it, and 10 years old, confirmed it's doing the gingery thing, so we don't sell it because it's
a long time since I've had a Glen Grant 12 on the shelf.
Well, that's
£27.
That's the 10-year-old, rather than the 12.
Sorry, a Glen Grant 10. Sorry, that's it.
Yeah, that does the job. I know I'm meant to be selling whiskey, but I also buy it from other people.
No, but this is why you're on, Roddy. That's how independent of mind you are. You work in the Good Spirits Company. You should be talking about the stuff that people can buy from you in there. But no, you're marching them up to the Co-op when they come in to see you at Good Spirits Company.
Well,
that's a good call. I think that is almost in line with what I would expect Roddy to pick out. Something just a wee bit kind of out there and off the wall. But what do you predict? Knowing our community, knowing the types of stuff that people come in and ask for, what do you actually predict might be?
Right.
nominated?
So I think in terms of value, there's two ways you can go that. It's like the I don't know, minutes of pleasure per pound spent or something. I don't know,
Sure.
or
Dicey.
But I know. But then I was definitely after this. So this is the second version of the list, and I was very much thinking about pounds and pence. So I was then thinking about like the absolute cost of a bottle of whiskey, and I think a knock 12.
Oh, another good one, and one of my
which-
favourites as well. Despite its low ABV, I'm always caught out by how good just Anok generally, how it's always kind of in its own furrow there. And I think the 12 probably demonstrates that as much as any other of the releases. And again, I constantly see Anok 12 in the UK. Roddy, we're talking about the UK. We can only talk about the prices that we pay where we are. Less than 30 quid.
Yeah, that's the Inverhouse. They're all doing us a solid by keeping it, pegging it to the £30 price point.
Aye, and long may it continue. Aye.
And it's got that lovely texture to it. And it's the sort of honey sweetness. It's just a cracking dram.
I think that's a good one. So my reminisce, if I remember well, Aaron 10 from Gregor McWee. Julie, you thought, what was your prediction?
Clynelish 14.
Clynelish 14 it was. Aaron Quarter Cask from Scotty, so 2 shouts for Aaron. And Roddy has got Anok 12. Fantastic. I'm not dropping you into the background, so if you burp, fart, or otherwise make a noise, people will hear it. It's just my big head that's going to pop up while I speak to the chat. So if you do try to chat amongst yourself, we will still hear you. Karen has bought us a dram to say a dram for a Super Scotch guest lineup. Aye, Karen is all of us would be well kent faces to you tonight, with the exception maybe a Gregor, but we can fix that. John Bell has also bought us a dram to say thanks for leading the way. Looking forward to another year with a fabulous community. John, I think that either you are coming. I don't think I've missed you yet. I think you're en route. I think you're coming into Glasgow in October, if I remember well. But Karen and John, thank you both for your drams. Cheers to you. Highland Hamish is saying, picked up a Port Ascot 100 proof last month from the Highlands Whisky Shop in Inverness. It was exceptional. Good for you, Hamish. Glad to hear that you're enjoying Julie's personal nomination. And Harrow saying, best value. Have all those Aaron Bunadinstone closed. So last one I had was the Tomatin Virgin Oak. So that's my vote. Good for you, Tomatin Virgin Oak. And I think that there's a few Tomatins. Legacy is always a fantastic blind challenge. Banana skin almost, it always outperforms. It does much better than we expect. And I think because of the Tomatin are one of those distilleries that have moved in that direction away from just focused on contract fillings in the last couple of decades to making Scotch malt whiskey. And I think that their products are becoming better and better all the time. And I hope that the OSWAs in time come to recognise those distilleries. Jean de la Cuisine is saying Aaron 18 is also great value in my opinion. Now, Jean is using that word value, right? He's not talking about Aaron 18 being cheap, because the quarter cask is cheaper. That 10-year-old is cheaper. The sherry cask is cheaper. There are cheaper products from Aaron. Does it give you the engagement that the 18-year-old does? Maybe not. So when we talk about it, it's like when Roddy was talking about pounds per minutes of pleasure and all that kind of thing. Value is different from cheap. John Bell is saying, yes, be in town on October 8th. Fantastic stuff. So let's move on. The next category is best blended whiskey. I'm going to go through this one quite quickly because, I think the best... Oops, I'd removed myself.
I said, oh no!
Well, you were fortunately, you weren't mid-nose pick.
It was more just that for a second I thought I was hosting. Oh,
yeah,
no.
Oh, here I am.
Did you press that space bar again, Roy?
I know, but I did want to go to Gregor though, because we were talking about the category that he struggled most with, this was it. That's okay. We need to talk about these things. Not everybody is going to have a meaningful, high quality input into all the categories, which is why in the OSWAs, if you can't make a meaningful contribution to the vote, skip. Don't dirty it with just grabbing things because your pal told you it tasted nice. If you feel like you know and you understand the quality of the product and you can vote for it, vote for it. And if you feel that there's something missing, put it in the people's choice, but you can skip. Nothing is forced on you. And I think that I've forced it on these guys tonight, but just for the sake of them having a nomination. How did you get on with the challenge, Gregor? What did you come up with for Best Blended?
Well, I'll say this. I think, and this is maybe testament to where the market's going. I felt more well versed in the blended malt as a category. So that is a positive. But for the so wait, you want my guess now, right? What I would choose.
Your personal pick first, yes.
I'm going to sound really dull here, and again, it's because I'm really not buying blends, and I would say at the price, it's hard to beat either a Johnny Walker Black or a Monkey Shoulder for what they need to be. Simple.
So what's you going to pick?
Oh, Johnny Walker Black is, you can drink that neat.
Monkey Shoulder also you could put forward as a blended malt in a blended malt category because it's all malt. Johnny Black, 12-year-old age statement. In the UK, I'm not sure if it's 40 or 43%. I know in the States they get it at 43. Export markets
43,
get it at 43. Yeah. So I age stated, and I think you can pick that up for the early 20s on offer, late 20s at the regular retail price. So a good shout. But what do you predict is going to be? Do you think that Johnny Black's going to make it into the OSWAs?
No, I don't think the community are interested. I don't think they're interested. It's quite funny that it's forcing us to have an opinion on what the community would be about. I don't know that I've picked a specific. I think it's going to be a compass box something. I'll say.
So if it's most of the Compass boxes are blended malts, obviously. The blends from Compass Box are Great King Street, and you've got the Glasgow blend, which is a wee bit peated, and you've got the Artist blend, which is the fruitier, lighter one.
In that case, you're helping me because again, I've not drank it, so I'll go Artist.
Artist blend, Compass Box, Artist blend.
Yeah, and I'll commit to that in my list right now.
It's sometimes it's 50 cl. Watch out for that, especially if you're buying it online. Make sure you're buying a 70 cl bottle because the difference in price is shockingly close. So pay attention to the size of the bottle. Most of it these days is 70 cl. But there you go, Compass Box Artist blend. Julie, what blend would Julie pick?
The one I would pick is Campbellton Loch.
Oh, blended malt though. That's a blended malt, but that's fine. But that's fine. It's still a blended whiskey, Campbellton Loch, and I can't blame you for picking it because it's Mitchells have pulled a blinder there. Nobody can buy Springbank. Stick it in a Springbank bottle, Campbellton Loch. They tell us that it's all Campbellton whiskies in there. Springbank is still embossed on the glass. There was a very interesting article in Malt recently about that. It did make me think twice. But for 35 quid, and in fact, I think the newest batch out is a wee bit higher in price. I think it's nudging 40 now. But I was so happy when that whiskey that came out. I bought 2 bottles of the first batch, and I bought a second. I got gifted a bottle of the second batch from Tim. That's a good call, Campbellton Loch.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be put forward for blended whiskies? What do you think all the contributors have put forward?
So I was very nearly making it the same choice for me and for what I think will get put forward. And I think Ballantine's.
Oh, available everywhere. Duty free, every holiday destination you've ever been at your life. You walk into the grocer's shop, there's a bottle of Ballantine's there. It's absolutely everywhere.
All my favourite Speyside in it. It's just
aye. Glenburgie, Milton Duff,
Glentockers.
Glentockers, of course. You're always going on about your pal Glentockers. Aye, that makes a lot of sense. But there
Yeah.
are occasional Ballantines out there that's slightly higher ABV too. I think that would be nice. That would be interesting. To get your
Valentine's
head around.
17, if I was to pinpoint it, Valentine's 17 is brilliant.
That's a good call. Ballantine 17. Terrific stuff. So, Scotty, well, I come to you then and ask for your own personal pick. What am I predicting? Am I trying to predict Scotty's personal pick or what he predicts? I think it's his personal pick I need to go for, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, it's been mentioned.
I'm writing it down.
Right,
Wait,
I've written it down. I've written it down.
right.
There you go.
Fine.
Go
Right,
on,
so like's been said, I don't drink a lot of blended whiskey, but one that I have really enjoyed, and since it went to 70 cl bottles, is the Compass Box Artist Blend Great King Street.
Oh. So close.
Oh no, it's
Compass
that's-
Box
that's-
Glasgow. So
I haven't
close.
tried that. I haven't tried that in years, not since it was in the small bottles. But I really enjoyed it. You know, it's got some grain whiskey in there, but it's got a good dollop of malt in it. It's 43%, and it's just a really decent, well-made blend. And I think that when you're talking about blends, Compass Box I think for people who really like whiskey, a lot of us kind of gravitate towards Compass Box, so they kind of just mess around with different things. But that with the grain component in that one and the malt, and it's bourbon forward, so that'd be my pick, and I've really enjoyed that bottle this year as well. And
I would say that Compass Box, the Artist Blend, and the Glasgow Blend, for blended whiskies compared to their peers, they're a wee bit pricey, but we're not talking cheap.
no,
We need to talk about
just-
value. We need to talk
Yeah.
about quality, right?
I don't know what the malt content is in it. I haven't looked that up, but it's a sizable chunk and good.
It's a
good
sipper
whiskey in
and
it.
a mixer, right? It's one
Yeah,
of those.
very much so. Yeah, definitely. So that's my personal pick.
Good. And what do you predict is going to make it through?
It's so difficult, and again, try to think about what people get access to, what they like, and I keep going back to things that I've tried rather than things I've not. And again, Compass Box, I'm going to go for the hedonism, because I think hedonism is obviously it's a blended grain, but
Yep.
it does a great job. And I know the price is starting to creep up a bit in that now, but to
It is
me,
a
it's
wee bit
still
dear. Yeah.
it is. But again, I think it's if you don't know about it, I totally recommend it for people who want to try
I
something
think
different
it's
as well.
as a drinking whiskey, Scotty, you're spot on. It's an expensive whiskey until you look at the makeup, till you
And it's
look
worth
at
it. I think it's worth it.
what's actually goes into that, the age of some of the products and the makeup of that. You realise why it's a wee bit pricier. And it's still, not only was it the first, not only was it like a genesis of a category, but there's still not a lot of competitors out there for it.
No, and
It's a blended grain whiskey.
yeah, and I think that it's fairly widely available. It's not one you can only get in Scotland or whatever. It's quite widely available. So I think that a lot of people have tried it, and again, it's one that I've the whiskies I'm picking are ones that I've mostly tried in the last revisited or whatever in the last 12 months or so.
Of course.
So,
And that's exactly
really
how we
enjoyed
want
that
the
as well.
others to be, not based on somebody else telling you it's good,
Totally, like so.
but
yeah.
on something that you can actually vouch for, something that you would recommend to a pal, something that you would purchase yourself.
Yep.
Roddy,
Just need to remember to click the unmute button. Right, so my own pick would be the last time I was on the show, right? The High Commissioner.
oh, I see. If I had been predicting, it was High Commissioner that you, and I brought the teachers. I was
Yes,
thinking
that's right.
teacher, that's right,
aye.
High Commissioner,
Um,
which I think the majority of High Commissioner is Loch Lomond from memory. Is that?
Yeah,
It
that's
used
right.
to
Aye,
be-
aye,
It
aye,
used to be
aye.
Loch Lomond.
Yes,
Yeah, I
that's,
remember
no, I think it
chatting.
still is. Aye. Yeah, that's it's such a great whiskey to make a highball with. Or, you know, I mean, it drinks really nicely, but it's a good mixing whiskey. And then
I
my
wish you were
prediction.
here to make me one of your highballs. I'm missing them, buddy. I'm missing them. But I good call, High Commissioner, and it's usually ridiculously inexpensive too. So if you talk about value, it's a much easier thing to get to.
That was the thinking there. It was the value thing. And then my
Absolutely.
prediction for what will be nominated was the same as Julie's. Valentine's.
Valentine's.
Which, I mean, I'm with Julie on, you know, the malts that go into it.
Yeah.
Fruity
the-
Speyside malts.
Yes,
right?
aye.
Yeah. What
And
grain
it's-
goes into Valentine's?
Strathclyde.
Strathclyde.
Strathclyde?
Aye,
Right.
of course. because it's Strathclyde. That's not Pernod, is it? It's
Aye.
Yeah, yeah.
it's Pernod Ricard. That's their grain distillery. Then, of course,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Then, so there you go.
Roy,
Strathclyde.
Roy,
Aye.
there's been quite a bit of interesting chat going on in the background in the chat stream on YouTube. A lot of discussion over the confusion of category, you know, blended malt versus blended Scotch. It's just quite interesting to see how.
Well, that's exactly what we're here.
Pretty animated,
right? If I walked out, I've often said, if I walked out my front door and went left and right up and then knocked on all my neighbours' doors and said, "Do you know whiskey?" Aye, we know whiskey. Do you know the difference between a blend and a malt? I think they would stutter immediately there. So, of course, there's going to be confusion when we get to the point where we talk about blended malt and blended Scotch. But for the sake of summary, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, you know, there's only two types of Scotch whiskey. There's malt whiskey and there's grain whiskey. That's it. And everything is made up of these two types of whiskey. So if you mix malt whiskey together, you get blended malt. And if you mix grain together, you get blended grain. So that's 4 categories there. And then the 5th one is when you mix those two grains together, if you like, grain whiskey and malt whiskey. You then get blended Scotch. There is a 6th theoretical category that's long since been lost and gone, but it still exists, and that is a single blend. That is grain and malt whiskey from the same place, Loch Lomond. And if you mix that together, you could theoretically get a single blend, but that category doesn't exist, so that doesn't exist. So that's what we've tried to do. 90% of the volume, it's said, but only 60% of the value is blended Scotch whiskey. So that's your Dewar's White Label. That's your Ballantines that we've been talking about tonight. It's certainly your Johnny Walker, Chivas Regal, J&B, and a multitude of other very, very famous whiskies out there. That's what blended Scotch whiskey is. By far, the most whiskey sold is that category. Malt whiskey is made by batch in a pot still. It's a batch-made product. And it is to be a single malt, it has to be from a single location. When you mix 2 of those single locations, you get a blended malt. So there's still blending going on, but it's still only malt whiskey. I appreciate that it's confusing. And if the OSWAs in any way helps to clarify what the differences are, I think that's a good thing, I hope. Right, we've got your chat. I'm going to go to the next category in a minute. I'll jump into the chat and I'll speak to them. And you can make sure that your answers are ready for category 3, which is that blended malt category. All right. Unicycle Master. I think that's a new name. Let's get controversial here, he's saying, and say High West Campfire, the Scotch Bourbon and Rye blend. You'll notice in the OSWAs this year that we have taken away that Scotch thing, blended Scotch, blended whiskey. Because if we're going to celebrate Scotch whiskey, I mean, all of the online Scotch Whiskey Awards is from the Scotch community. That's where the Scotch comes for. The S in OSWA stands for Scotch, because it's us as a Scotch-loving community. But it doesn't mean that we only drink Scotch. So the chances are that in most of the categories, it's going to be Scotch that's put forward, which makes it super compelling if a High West Campfire could come into that category, that blended category, because it's absolutely valid. And have people talking about it there. I think that would be interesting in itself, to have things like that appear. So it could absolutely be a thing. Rob Halford is saying, couldn't Loch Lomond make a single blend? Indeed, they do. Loch Lomond do make single blends. They usually do it for contract. And in fact, if you consider Glasshouse, which we love, 46% blended whiskey, I love it. It's £27, £28. Fantastic whiskey. It's all malt, interestingly, but it's malt made in a column still, so it's single grain, and it's malt made in a pot still, so it's actually kind of a single blend if that category existed, but it doesn't. So they do make it, and it does exist out there. Maybe the Spearhead. I'm just trying to think if that's got malt in it as well. I think it does. Karsten T is saying a great clarification of categories right there. Karsten, thanks very much. I hope it was helpful for you and useful. Steve Atkins is saying I need to pick up another SRV5. SRV5 would be valid for the next category because that is all malt whiskies in that Thompson Brothers blend, and it's cracking value too. Whiskey with Molly is saying, why is value so important in this category? Best blended whiskey surely could be one of the not cheap blends. Never make the mistake, Ben. Cheap and value are totally different things. You could pay £200 for a bottle of blended whiskey, but if it's a gorgeous whiskey to you that sends you off your head every time you take a sip, then surely that's good value. Value and cheap are not the same things. Somebody's 50 quid is all they're ever going to be able to spend on a bottle of whiskey, and somebody else's 50 quid is more than they would, is couch change. So we can't, we know that the money thing is in some respects subjective, but I would argue that it's actually objective. If you don't know how much a pint of milk costs, then yeah, okay, I understand. But it's not a big leap for you to understand that your 50 quid couch change is a big deal for somebody else. Value is different from cheap. We have to be clear about that. Cheap is going in one direction. Value is different. We need to celebrate quality. Christopher Malloy has bought us a dram to say that SWA needs to change the categories. That's a whole other vPub, Chris, but it's fantastic to see you in, buddy, and thanks for your dram. Cheers. Okay, folks, category 3. Category 3 is blended malt. Quick fire this one. Blended malt. I think we've covered it extensively the last time round. Gregor, give me your favourite and your prediction, and I'll dwell if I'm curious.
All right. Well, my personal, I know you're saying quick fire. My personal could have been a Johnny Walker Green, and it could have been Naked Malt, I think is how it's been rebranded now, right?
Naked Grouse. Just Naked, yeah.
Naked Grouse. But my choice would be, and this is one that fits because it was one of the bottles that came back with me, is Campbelltown Loch.
So, your pick is Campbelltown Loch?
Yeah.
And your prediction?
It was in there. Glasshouse was in there, but are you saying that isn't technically a blended malt?
It is all malt, but it has to be, because of SWA, it has to be called blended Scotch.
Right.
Some of the malt has been made in a column still.
All right. I was listening.
So that's a grain element.
Got you. No, so my choice of what I think the community is going to go for, because it's probably more accessible than Campbelltown Loch, would be Compass Box Orchard House.
Orchard House.
Yeah.
Good call. Campbelltown Loch is a Gregor pick. Fantastic. Yep. Julie.
I'm going in for Elixir again.
Okay. Elements of Isla. Oh, as a blended malt. What is that? Hold it up a wee bit closer and I'll try.
So this is our newly released Elements of Isla. So this is a blend of
peat and sherry works.
It's a blend of Kalila and Lafroig, and it's fantastic. It's 54.5%, and it's 60.
Got the ABV. Just come on, tell us the price.
65 quid a bottle.
65 quid.
It's wonderful.
Peat and sherry works for some reason. I don't know what it is. Even somebody like me that bangs on about keeping balance and all the rest of it, when the sherry cask is dialed up and the peat's dialed up, sometimes that's all you want. We don't need to be looking for complexity and balance all the time. Sometimes it's just super compelling. That's a good one. 65 quid. Cask strength as well.
54.5. It's not quite cask strength. We've taken it to 54.5.
Okay, good.
Three quarters of it is Lafroig. The majority of it's been in Miguel Martin Oloroso sherry casks, so it's gorgeous. But yeah, that's my pick.
For it to come with a Julie stamp of approval, that means that it's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye out for too.
Yep.
What would you predict then? Because I think that no many people will have come across that one.
No. So I was putting that in. This is quite literally new. So Big Pete was my prediction.
Oh, Big Pete. A blend of Isla whiskies. Remarkable regional malts from Dougie Lane. A cultural phenomenon globally, a bit of a cult following there. I've even seen folk with Big Pete tattoos on them.
Yeah.
Good call. 46% ABV typically, with lots of other special limited editions with higher ABV as well. Christmas editions, all the rest of it. Yeah. Good call. Scotty Monroe, you're nodding. I need to hold up what would Scotty pick? I'm going to write this one out in big, massive letters.
If you don't get this, we can't be mates.
We can't be pals, right? Are you ready? On 3, 2, 1.
It's the Compass Box Orchard House. There you go. It's a whiskey, you know.
I'm glad you've decided to still be my pal. That means a lot.
That's okay. It's all good. That's a bottle, as you well know. I bought it and I demolished it, and I bought the second one while I was drinking the first one, even though it was a cold release. And I've been through several bottles of it. I can't get enough of this stuff. I just love it. And again,
I'm going to argue here with you, Scotty.
Okay.
That I agree with you. I love it too. That is not cheap whiskey. That is not. 42, 43 pounds for a non-age statement blended malt whiskey. There's plenty of it out there.
Yep.
And yet we buy it, and it's become a staple here for me, buddy. It's great whiskey. It's great whiskey,
and I mean, I took a punt on it. I mean, not the Compass Box name, but I looked at the distilleries that were in it: Linkwood, Benrinnes, Clynelish, and others. And it was bourbon cask. I thought that sounds great, and I bought a bottle, and I thought it's amazing. And yeah, it's again, I don't buy many bottles back to back, but that's one that's just I have to have a bottle of it all times. So I couldn't not put that in because it's one I've enjoyed so much over the last 18 months or so since it came out. So that's my
terrific
pick.
Well, I've got 1 out of 3. I'm doing no bad.
That's all right. That's no bad.
What would you put forward as a prediction then? Would you be confident enough to put Orchard House through as a prediction?
I wouldn't. I thought about it, Roy, but I didn't. I wasn't sure how widely available it is. I think it's starting to go into the American market now, but I wasn't 100% sure. I've just gone for one that's got that I know people can buy, and it's proved to be very popular, especially in the US, and that's Monkey Shoulder. Just and it's 43% in the US, and I think it's quite a versatile malt as well. So I should say blended malt, because you can mix it, you can do what you want with it. It's again, I've gone for value. And it's decent stuff for the price as well, and I think it's again I've come from the
£27, £25, often an offer. You can tear through it, you can share it, pour it for anybody that comes round. You know it's not going to offend anybody. It might intrigue others.
It's widely
anxiety-free drinking, right?
Totally, and it's widely available, you know, and that's another key point, that people can get their hands on it. I mean, Campbelltown Loch's great. I mean that was another contender, but I'm not sure enough people have maybe tried it or managed to get their hands on it. So I think Monkey Shoulder is a for the everything involved. I think it's a good pick. So that is my
perfect sense.
That's my guess.
Perfect sense.
Quick question on that. Right. At one point, was Monkey Shoulder a blended Scotch and had grain, right? Or no?
No, it's always been. In fact, when they first launched it, it was triple, so it was Kinninvie, Balvenie, and Glenfiddich. But now it's got Ailsa Bay in there as well. So, but it's still all malt. It's still blended malt whiskey. Okay. It's always been blended malt.
All good. Even better value.
Aye. Roddy.
Okay, so right. So my personal nomination, and this is not any sort of collaboration at all or conspiracy, but the Elements of Islay Sherry.
Oh my goodness! So we've got Julie stepping up, and we've got an endorsement from Roddy. Suddenly, there's going to be 5 folk in the chat rushing for an element.
Julie came into the shop to let us try them, and I was very sniffy about that. I was like, I don't know, it's not speaking to me. I don't know what's going on here. So she left some behind, and I took a wee bit home. Yes. I took a wee bit home and I left it in a glass. And I sort of spent a wee while kind of going back and forth to it, and it is pricey. It's £65. That's a lot of money for a bottle of whiskey, but it's complexity. You know, it's like you nose it initially and you're not sure what's going on, and then you come back to it and it's different again, and then you're in and out and back and forth, and eventually you figure out that it's like this big beast of an Islay whiskey that's been wrapped up in lovely sweet sherry, and it's complex, and it's full spectrum. It's got all that Laphroaig peat, and it's got loads and loads of lovely rich sherry notes, and it's kind of, I think maybe when the first time I tasted it, it was just too much. and then I had to sort of take my time over it and let it breathe in the glass. And
It was a Spinal Tap whiskey when you first approached it.
To be fair, we tasted 7, so
oh yes, we did. We did.
yeah. So it was
but
fast.
I think for me a whiskey that makes you take your time and just leave it in the glass for a while, that gives you good value for money, because you pour a dram and then you don't drink it for an hour. One dram lasts you.
I get it. And it tends to be those big, heavy, compelling, full-on, rich, flavoured whiskies that you can do that with.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the type of thing. I can already imagine it. And now I'm super curious. And I think a lot of folk out there are probably going to be super curious. But you didn't predict that the elements of Islay are going to make it through to the OSWAs. What do you predict?
It's too new, I think. It's just been released.
Yep.
So,
Can I just say, someone's asking in the comments if it's got Kalila in it as well, and it does. So it's 78% Lafroig and 22% Kalila.
And I would say that I think the elements thing where you don't know the distilleries, I don't know that you wouldn't. I think it's fun to try and pick out Lafroig character or Kalila character, but I don't know that that's the point of the whiskey. It's about the full spectrum intensity of peat and sherry.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one. Julie, I know you've been able to tell us the 78-22% ratio. You're not able to tell us ages. It's maybe a mix of ages, is it?
So this is our core range. So from now on, this is going to be available. So the casks that he's using are between 7 and 12. That's quite a big gap.
Sure, no, it's fine. It's fine.
But what it does is it gives him the capacity. So Ollie Chilton's our blender. He gives him the capacity to blend it to a similar flavour profile each time.
I appreciate that you're able to even give us a banding, because that's not even often on the table. So it's we understand that that's what's happening. Listen, people went nuts last year and went all over the place. 80 quid for a 7-year-old blue spot. It was cast strength, it was high ABV, and there's lots of and I would ask people to judge whiskey more and more so, not just look at an age statement and look at a price. And I appreciate it's a big ask to ask people to go out and pay the money to try it, but obviously try before you buy, sample exchanges, read reviews, listen to the chatter on it. But I think a lot of people felt that the blue spot was worth it. And I was shocked by that. I didn't buy a blue spot. I had some samples. I thought it to be good whiskey, but for me, it was an 80 quid whiskey. I'm super curious to try your 60 odd, 70 quid, whatever it is, elements of Islay, because I'll judge it on the flavour experience rather than obviously the price. And I hope I feel the same way as you guys as well, because it's kind
I'm going to give a shout out to I bought the bourbon cast version, as Julie knows, and it's pretty damn good as well. So
okay,
I'll leave it at that. It's good.
So what did you predict, Roddy? You've not predicted it yet, have you?
So yeah, I was doing that stupid thing of trying to second guess what people would go for, and
That's right.
I again, like Julie, it must be some kind of group think in the club. I'd thought about Big Pete, and then I thought, no, Big Pete's. So I switched over to Compass Box Spice King. But
Spice Tree.
Spice Tree. Sorry, yes,
that's right. Roddy, by the way, don't judge Roddy. He only sells this stuff, right? He's not supposed to. Spice Tree. Interestingly, Roddy, if I remember well, which is actually something that I'm not very good at, Spice Tree was nominated last year, so you might be in with a chance of that again. Poker face. I'm not going to be giving anything away, but Compass Box Spice Tree is a blended malt. Listen, what I'm going to do tonight, because of the time it's taking us to get through this, we're not going to talk about distillery, new distillery, or independent bottler tonight. We're just going to talk about bottles, the categories. For everybody that's playing along in the chat, you can still do it. You can still comment in the chat, Gregor. You can still put, for posterity, you can put down your picks there. But I'm conscious of time tonight. So what we'll do is we'll stick to the bottles. But everybody that's participating after this live stream tonight, if you put it in the chat, I want to hear your best distillery. I want to hear your best new distillery, and I want to hear your best independent bottler as well. But we'll skip those categories tonight. As if we want to confuse things a wee bit further, next one up is non-malt whiskey. So we're going to need to spend a wee bit of time talking about that, but we'll get to that in a second. I'll leave you guys still, if you're going to burp, fart, or otherwise cough and splutter, please mute yourselves, and I'll hang out with the chat just for a second here. We talk about. There we go. Thanks, McWee. How do I know that's you? Spice Tree versus King Street. Spice King. But also there is a Weems malt called something else, and I'm trying to remember what it is. But I'm just as fudgy of head as Roddy here. I'm forgetting.
Spice King. Is it not
Spice King? There we go. Spice King. Thank you, Julie, in the background. And also Greg Glass's range. From White Mackay last year or the year before, potentially, he had King of Trees as well. So there's all these kind of confusing blended malt type names flying about in it. That's understandable. Let's see what the chat is. Whiskey Franco saying that's quite expensive for Orchard. The lowest I've seen here in Colorado was $52. Typically see it around $59. For us in the UK is $42.43, and I know the exchange rate's a bit crazy right now. I mean, the pound seems to be cruising for parity with the dollar, which is just nuts to consider. But if you're American and you're visiting the UK right now, you can be rich people. Let's be honest. There's a good thing about that. First of all, Whisky, and good to see you. First of all, Whisky, good to welcome you here, buddy. This content that's going out on First of all Whisky's channel, you need to go and see it. Go and look at the effort that guy is putting into his whiskey content. It's just super. I think if I was introduced to somebody who was getting into whiskey, I'd spend a bit of time with them. I'd like to show them around a glass or two. But if they were wanting to watch content, I think I might be tempted to send them to the First of all Whisky channel. Amongst others, there's a bunch of good quality content out there. Anyway, let's get into the confusing category, which seems to have confused some folk, which I hope this is going to clarify it a wee bit. What we're talking about here is non-malt whiskey. So we can, anything's on the cards here. You can have rye, you can have corn, you can have wheat, you can have a mixed mash bill, you can have any of those things, but we're just trying to avoid malt. Why are we doing that? Because we want this to be inclusive. And if you're loving the Scotch whiskey community scene, if your lane is Scotch whiskey, but you do change lanes from time to time to dabble elsewhere with other grains, we want to hear what it is, and we want to hear what's bringing the engagement for you. That's why non-malt whiskey is in there. It's the Scotch whiskey community that's bringing these awards, of course, but it's not going to focus fully on malt whiskey. There's more than one grain. Okay, guys, let's see. Let's go in reverse this time, just to switch it up. Roddy, did you have a pick for non-malt, a Roddy pick for non-malt whiskey?
Yeah, so my own pick and my prediction, and it's
Are they one and the same?
Yes, they are the same. It's a bit of a pockle. Spearhead.
I mentioned Spearhead. Tell us about Spearhead.
So it's malted barley, but it's been run through a column still.
Yes.
It's from Loch Lomond, so they can't call it. They're not allowed to call it malt whiskey. And then they.
So in Scotland, it has to be categorised as grain whiskey. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, you're better at summarising these categories, Roy. But and you did a really good job earlier. But yeah, because it's been run through a column still, even though it's 100% malted barley, you have to call it a grain whiskey.
Aye.
But it's got that extra flavour that comes from being made from malt. And then they put it into a really interesting selection of barrels. So which includes infrared treated white oak barrels. And this is a kind of a really interesting thing that's it's been explored more in, I think, maybe in America than in this country, where coopers are developing ever finer controls of how they toast or fire the barrels.
Yes.
In terms of the temperature and intensity of the heat.
And the evenness, the spread of the heat. And yep.
And that allows them to selectively bring out the kind of flavors they want. So you can the distillery or the whiskey maker can say, I want you to emphasize vanilla, or I want you to emphasize coconut, or I want you to emphasize spice. So that the selection of barrels is absolutely spot on, and it's such a lovely whiskey. It's got lots of vanilla and coconut, and it's got the sweetness that you associate with column style whiskies.
I've tried a sample of it. I think, is there more than one Spearhead, or is there just one at the minute?
Oh, I only know about one, Roy. I know,
right. So that must be the one I've tried, and
but also they've I don't know who they got to do the mixing for them. As you know, I like a mixed drink. They promote on the label. There's a drink they call a peach head, which it's I guess it's a kind of sort of variant on a highball that involves a bit of peach liqueur,
right?
And it's just it's just a drink that makes you laugh, it's a lovely, lovely, lovely whiskey drink.
Wait, I know that most of my audience kind of, I think cocktails are quite Marmite for them, as you and I, Roddy, have discovered in the past. One of the best drinks, and I need to say this very quietly, one of the best drinks I had in my entire trip in Texas, and I drank some fabulous whiskeys, was very late at the very end of a very long, hot, sticky day. It was a new fashioned in a chilled glass with a massive chunk of ice, and they used the syrup from the cherries rather than simple syrup. Nice. And it was stunning. Do you remember it, Gregor?
Yes. Yeah, it was great. I did the same trick for a Manhattan. I use a little bit of the maraschino syrup in there.
Yeah. Oh, it was tremendous. I can still taste it now. Roddy, we need to have you in the same room so we can get the cocktail faces on again.
We do.
So Spearhead is a terrific pick. And so you're hoping, is that your prediction? You think
I'm hoping that it's been on the market long enough that people will have picked up on it and will be voting for it.
Well, I need
nominating it, sorry.
And try a wee Spearhead too. Scotty Monroe. Non-malt. It's no your lane, is it?
Well, I've kind of gone down the kind of the bourbon route for this one.
Right.
My pick would be
Wait.
Oh, you got a hint there.
I know.
Well, I did. I got a hint on the profile, but I'm still. Listen, I'm shooting in the dark here, Scotty. I don't have an obvious one. This isn't the Orchard House. Go for it.
Or is it? No, it can't. No, I've gone for the Balcones Pot Still Bourbon as my pick. What have you gone for?
Oh, I thought maybe.
Oh no.
Okay, but you've picked a Texas Pot Still Bourbon. Fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that bottle. Brilliant. Really enjoyed the fruitiness of it, the kind of heaviness to it. It's 46%. It's maybe a bit lower than a bourbon I would usually have.
But still ridiculously dense despite its ABV of 46.
Huge amount of flavour in it.
Yep.
Lovely fruitiness to it as well. I was doing one night I was having it side by side with the Balcones Texas single malt, going back and forwards between them as well, and that was a good night. So I've gone for that one because it's just a drink I've really enjoyed in the last 12 months or so. It's been fantastic.
Good call. What do you think that's going to make it through as well?
Again, I've gone for availability, Roy, and what I think people can get hold of. And I know that last year, Wild Turkey's Rare Breed did pretty well, and I think that's why I think people will go for that again. Again, it's widely available everywhere, but I guess if you're a bourbon head, then you're maybe not going to be going for that. But again, versatile drink.
Well, I think the shout for Rare Breed is the fact that it's affordable. It's one of these, really acclaimed, celebrated bourbons. It's affordable, high ABV, high proof bourbons that we can occasionally get here in the UK, quite regularly get in the UK, which makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying things like some barrel proof Elijah Craig's this year as well. But again, there's just because of the just batches and they're not just expensive. The availability is the thing I really kind of concentrated on. So I think my guess would be the Wild Turkey Rare Breed for this category.
Good shout. Julie, what would you do for non-malt? Would you be in bourbon or somewhere else?
So kind of going against my grain, because I don't normally like bourbon, but I have discovered Michter's unblended American whiskey.
Oh, terrific! So this, this is not malt, right? This is using
This is-
corn as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So this they can't call bourbon because they're reusing bourbon casks.
Yes. of
So
course.
because they're using refill casks, because of their laws, they've got to only use it once.
I tried that at the Glasgow Whisky Festival in February, didn't I?
You would have, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just so
Yeah.
good. And
That's the Julie pick. Wow, that's a good one,
That's-
Julie. That's a good one.
that's the Julie pick, which I'm not normally a bourbon fan, but I'm slowly but surely coming over to the category.
And how are Michter spelling whiskey?
EY.
So it has an EY.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that they were one of just the Ys, but
No,
no.
EY. And then my prediction has come out already under blend, but my prediction's Compass Box Hedonism.
Perfect. Perfect. I understand why. Again, that single grain,
Yeah.
blended single grain whiskey. It's been out for, I think it's been out 20 years now, Compass Box
Yeah.
Hedonism. I remember when I first got into whiskey, my pal Linda, who very occasionally watches the vPub, but not very often. Her husband might more likely to. But she brought me this hedonism and I said, what's this nonsense? And I remember trying it and went, oh, okay, this is really good. and I've tried it in blinds many times since. And it's a really and I think it changes how you think about two things. It changes how you think about grain whiskey, Scotch grain whiskey, and I think it changes how you think about blending. Because grain whiskey has I think most of the time we can pick out grain whiskey, Scotch grain whiskey.
Yeah.
Hedonism does a very good job of masking by layers of complexity, bringing body from somewhere. I don't know how it gets body, but body that I don't recognize normally in grain. I think that's a good call, Julie. Poker face, I'm not suggesting it's there. If it's no there tomorrow, don't be disappointed. And if it is there, don't be thinking that I think Compass Box Hedonism is a good shout. Gregor, what are you drinking there? That looks like a big, massive peach head.
H2O. Rehydration matters.
Is that the Gregor pick for non-malt H2O?
There you go. No, I know. I remember Scott talking about that on the podcast. That was funny. So my personal choice would be Bullet Rye.
Oh.
No, it wouldn't.
Rye.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No danger. No danger.
Okay.
Did
The
that
penny
just
took a
me?
while to drop there, son.
I
I'll
know.
be
I was
honest.
waiting for that one. I was waiting
like,
for that.
Gregor and Rye, what's going on? Is the world is broken?
Just should not exist. It just should not exist.
So, spoilers for all you Rye fans out there, you're not going to get any Rye from Gregor McWee, I'm afraid.
No.
So there's not been any Rye shouts for you at all.
No, and I upset someone yesterday when I made the joke that bourbon only exists to make Scotch good. But that went down. Actually, no. I know. I'm joking. So my personal choice and my guess for what the community should pick is actually Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, because my availability for that differs from you guys.
Sure.
I think even if there's batch variants, it's never bad. It's never bad. And I think there's no better an example of what bourbon can and should be. It's tremendous, and it's priced really keenly here in the States. So much so that I think it, Stag Junior and some of that stuff at one point was a similar thing, and it just became impossible to get. I think eventually maybe Elijah Craig might become that, but for me, barrel proof every time.
I have to say, Gregor, I agree, and it seems how to strike that balance. I mean, it's super compelling. Love the stuff. I've been fortunate to be gifted bottles. I've managed to pick up one on my own. It is available here from time to time. It's triple figures if you can get it here in the UK. It's 100 quid plus. But if you can get it, it's one of these kind of whiskies that teaches us, somebody who's not normally treading the bourbon path, that bourbon can be absolutely compelling. I think it's interesting to watch people drink it and watch their reaction. It's a vicarious pleasure to see people sipping that whiskey. It's a good call. So that's your prediction and your personal pick.
Yes. Yeah.
Terrific stuff. Terrific
Two for
stuff.
one.
If anybody's trying to get a hold of my attention, type in Aquavita and I'll pick the orange out in the chat. So obviously what we're going to do now, there are 3 other categories in the OSWAs after this category 4. And it talks about distillery. And well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll not completely cut it out. Before I go into the chat, just drill it out. Just shout personal, then prediction. Gregor, say the words.
2 for 1, still Springbank.
Springbank. Julie,
2 for
personal and
1.
prediction. Yeah, best
2 for
distillery.
1. Springbank.
Oh my goodness. Scotty Monroe, personal and prediction.
My personal Loch Lomond, and my guess would be Springbank.
Oh my goodness. So we've got Loch Lomond wiggling in there, but Springbank. Roddy, personal and prediction.
Yeah, Roddy, you're muted.
Roddy, now that you're in
Sorry.
your mid-40s,
It's just that you would not believe how noisy the keyboard is.
don't worry.
But version 1 of my list, it was Springbank, and then I went through the list again thinking about availability, and
I think that's fair. Yep.
Version 2 of the list, it was Loch Lomond. I was dithering over Kilkerran because that's a bit more available.
Kilkerran, there's only 2 distilleries being mentioned then. Springbank and Loch Lomond. That's incredible.
Well, I was dithering about Kilkerran, but even Kilkerran's kind of hard to get hold of,
Here's the thing I will say, and I'll say it to everybody, and not just everybody in here. Bottles, I understand that people would want to talk about things that we can actually pick up and hold and drink and share and celebrate. When it comes to distilleries, I don't care that you can't buy the stuff, because what that tells you is they are doing good things, and just because they are doing such a good job that you can't buy it anymore does not mean we shouldn't celebrate what they're doing. So Springbank, Roddy, is absolutely valid. I think it's also fantastic that people are starting to recognise the huge strides that Loch Lomond have made in recent years, and just how compelling a product that's coming out of them now. However, when it comes to distillery, we celebrate the job that they're doing, quality, integrity, availability, sure, if we can get it, but value, flavour. I mean, it's all of these things. And inevitably, when they get it right, the stuff sells out and we can't get it. Just because we can't get something doesn't mean that we shouldn't be celebrating the distilleries. Just a feeling, I think it kind of makes sense. I'll jump into the chat just now, and I'll see you back here, where we'll do the same drill through for new distillery. We'll do a same quickfire drill through, I think, just for independent bottler, just for kicks. We won't dwell on it too much, and I'll see you back in a wee second. But remember, unless you mute yourselves, we'll all hear your burps, farts, coughs, and splutters. Oh, that was a nice wee noise. I hope that was Julie that made that noise. Jimmy Legg is saying Springbank and Glengyle. Again, echoing Roddy in some respects there. Spot on, Jimmy. I think everybody's loving that. Nick Keane is in from New Zealand. So good to see you. Celebrating being a member for 22 months. And he's shouting, Brooklady. Brooklady. Get anybody that's watching this on the replay, or anybody just that's watching it live, after the live stream, go into the comments underneath and list your 9 entries, your 9 predictions, what you think is going to be. And by all means, I think it's super valuable if you share your personal picks too. Whisky with Molly is screaming Glen Scotia, loads of exclamation marks. Again, another distillery that's so talked about. It's on everybody's lips at the minute. Rob Halford is saying, will there ever be a Scotch grain category, or is it too small to be a contender? I think there's only 7 grain distilleries in existence, Rob, and I know that there's some closed distilleries, Port Dundas and others are still available. Trying to think of the one up north, the White Mackay one. But it's a wee bit niche, and we're already at the point where we're starting to get a wee bit of kind of blowback because of the definitions, how we've defined non-malt, malt, and blended. Those 3 categories seem to be causing a bit of confusion. If you are confused about where we're coming from, remember the OSWAs are from the perspective of the Scotch whisky community. So if you put yourself in the shoes of a Scotch whisky enthusiast who knows Scotch whisky and understands the Scotch whisky definitions, that might help you fathom the difference. Spend a bit of time reading the OSWA.co.uk website And the categories go into a bit more detail there. Wildcard Jimmy Legg is saying Dilluin. I think it's a cracker. A lot of us love Dilluin, Jimmy. It's a good one to throw out there as a wild card. Tommy Elmer is saying still pulling for Kilhoman. Again, the farm distillery out in Islay. Only 17 years old. I tried their 16-year-old Islay. I wish I'd been able to buy that. The Fishio release this year. It's probably the best Kilhoman I've ever sipped. Ben Romack for me, good call, Karsten. I think Ben Romack is a very good shout. And Jimmy Legg is saying no one is confused. That's not the feedback I'm getting, Jimmy. I am so comfortable that Jimmy Legg isn't confused. I don't want to deal with a confused Jimmy Legg. But I am getting some people coming back to me and saying, "Wow, what's this? What's this?" Just put yourselves in the shoes of a Scot. And it should make sense for you. All right, let's go to best new distillery. Let's ask our guests for, again, just a quick fire. We're going to cut through to the chase here. World Whiskies and best Scotch whisky. That's what we're going to hit. But we could do a quick drill of best new distillery. What do you think? Since you were coughing the loudest, Julie Hamilton. That's all right. That's all right. When next time I'm over at your house, I'll show you where the mute button is on your wee keyboard there. But it's my fault. Normally, I would drop you into the background, but rather than clicking all those buttons, we want individually.
I'll use my mute button. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it. Best new distillery. Give me your personal and then your prediction. Quick fire. Go.
My personal's Ardnamurchan.
Good. And
Can
your
I
prediction?
do that as a new distillery? Is that allowed?
Absolutely. It's the only thing is in the last 10 years. Absolutely, Ardnamurchan. 2013 founding, but 2014 started to distill. So absolutely, they're still a new distillery. So Ardnamurchan. And your prediction?
I'm going to push that out as my prediction as well.
Ardnamurchan.
Yeah,
They did very well last year. You might remember that they did actually win the category last year. So I think it's a fair shout that they would be celebrated again in 2022.
I had actually written down Glenwivus because I'm all over that just now.
Oh, you did. That was a vPub discovery for you, right? That was here on the live.
Discovery. It was awesome.
Right.
It's what I've been drinking tonight, actually. But yeah.
Good stuff.
I'm going to stick with Ardnamurchan for both. Yeah.
Well, what I want to talk about there is when people are talking about certain things being expensive. $62.50. I felt Glenwivus, this is too expensive for a new whiskey, and then I taste it and I'm looking for a second bottle.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about judging books by their cover. You need to use each other. We need to crowdsource the intelligence here and know when things are, it's a wee bit pricey, but it's bringing value. Glenwivus is a good example. Gregor McWee, give me your two quick fire new distilleries.
Well, can I share an opinion as well? I do think once somebody wins this, they can't be and shouldn't be again. I think then you go into the distillery category personally.
No. If you continue to bring it year after year after year, you become the one that people need to strive to topple. If somebody comes to the OSWAs and says, "Sorry, Roy, sorry, Ralphie, sorry, whiskey community, it's getting a bit repetitive year after year, it's the same distillery." That's the distilleries or the producers or the bottles or whatever it may be that is showing everybody else that it's possible, that we're standing up and talking about it. And yes, it might become a popular thing or a populist vote. It might become that. And at that point, we start to look at it. But you're going to tell me that Springbank, Ardnamurchan, the winners from last year are suddenly not allowed to celebrate 2 years in a row being amazing?
We're all have an opinion. I say this only because we're saying new. And that's how my
10
mind
years.
works.
10 years.
I know.
Ardnamurchan in 1 or 2 years' time will not be applicable. They have to go and fight with the big boys in the new distillery.
I'll not vote for them next year, right?
So my choice. Now let's go with my prediction. It was going to be a toss-up between Ardnamurchan or Rassie, and my choice is Rassie.
Good.
That's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Terrific stuff. You're enjoying Rassie. And are you going to choose the same for the prediction as well?
Yes, because I think there was quite
Rassie,
the backlash.
Rassie.
I think there was the backlash that it wasn't included in.
You
the
might remember that
nominations.
Rassie was not nominated last year, and in the People's Choice, they absolutely kicked it out the park because the people, the community, wanted to scold us for not celebrating Rassie. That was a fantastic thing, and that's why things like People's Choice is so important. Terrific stuff. Scotty Monroe.
It's a 2 for 1 here. A bit of
So you're backing up Julie there, Ardnamurchan,
Yeah, Ardnamurchan for
Ardnamurchan.
both. Yeah.
You know, I've had a wee bit of blowback. You know, the echo chamber. Roy talks about Ardnamurchan a lot, so it's inevitable that Ardnamurchan are going to get a lot of coverage and stuff. That is very complimentary to me. Thank you for everybody that's suggesting such a thing, but it's very derogatory and very rude to Ardnamurchan. I cannot easily consider another producer out there that's tried as hard as they have to be as transparent, to be as quality and integrity forward, and to continually bring us product at an affordable price and make it as available as they can. And everyone is getting round a glass of Ardnamurchan and working out, this is terrific. For it to be saying, oh, you know, everybody's talking about Ardnamurchan and rolling eyes about it. Sorry, listen, it's not one person. It's not Roy. It's not Gregor McWee. It's not Julie. It's not Scotty. It's everybody is talking about the whiskies that are doing good things. Please remember that. It's super important. And I realise that I've just talked about Ardnamurchan again, but that's not what's happening. What's happening is not one person talking. What's happening is good whiskey, and that's a lot more than just one wee stupid YouTube channel. Good shout, good call, Scotty Monroe. Roddy, what are you going to put forward for New Distillery?
So I kind of had the same thought process as Gregor about, you know, the Adelphi being Ardnamurchan being nominated last year, and I'm a huge fan of Ardnamurchan. Obviously, I'm a bit biased because Graham McWee that works for them used to be a colleague of mine.
But he still needs to represent good whiskey.
Yes, he does.
If he brought out crappy whiskey, you wouldn't be talking about his whiskey. I mean, it's nice that you acknowledge that, but it's not Graham McWee. It's the whiskey in the bottle. I
want to. My own pick would be Lochleigh, because I think their whiskey's cracking. It's not as complex as Ardnamurchan yet. It's you know they've got a less broad spectrum of flavours to pick from because they're not doing peated whiskey.
And they've also got 5 years delinquency behind Ardnamurchan. I mean,
yeah. They're but I think, you know, the fact that, you know, they don't have their own malting floor yet, but aside from that, everything's done in the one place, and it's entirely their own barley.
Yep.
You know, I've been lucky enough to taste quite a lot of different liquids from Lochleigh, and I think, you know, that they're doing this fascinating thing where they've got 2 regimes where they're making spirit for a short maturation, which is what we're tasting just now, but they're also making spirit that's intended for a long maturation, you know, that wouldn't be drinkable if they were to release it just now.
That's right.
You know, having tasted both of them, you know, I think in the future, you know, they're my kind of, what do the American sports people call it, the pick for next season or something, I don't know.
Yeah, the long tail pick, right? I mean, I think that it's interesting that you talk about that very thing. The producers out there, of which Ardnamurchan are also one, of which Nick Nean is another one, people that are putting down spirit that's going to be treated and handled in a slightly different way because they need to get revenue back. So they're going to try and make a compelling product at a relatively young age, but also something that's going to be laid down to mature much longer in a different way. It's a very different way of handling it. It's a good shout. So Lochleigh's the Roddy pick. What's your prediction? Do you think Lochleigh's
Ardnamurchan, I think.
Okay,
I think in terms of, you know, whiskey that's on the market now, they're kind of kicking it out of the park, really, aren't they? Yeah.
I am going to claim my Scotty Monroe points for Ardnamurchan and Springbank. I'm taking it because I would have said it. I didn't write it down. I wrote it down after the event. I'm not. Ardnamurchan I will take as a point. Springbank I can't take as a point. I'm not sure I would have gone there. Okay. I think I might have gone somewhere else for that.
Well, my pick was Loch Lomond, though. Remember, no Springbank.
Oh, that's right.
I wouldn't have half a point. Half a point. I
wouldn't have picked that either for that's a good shout. That's a good shout. I wouldn't have guessed that for you, buddy. I know that you love it, but I wouldn't have guessed it for you. Anthony Lambert is saying best new distillery Glasgow 1770. They're pushing out some splendid stuff, and again, they took a while to get on. You know, this is my personal opinion here. They took a wee while to get there, but absolutely, Anthony, I'm going to predict that potentially that peated PX matured release that they have now, that it's 70 CL as well, is a big difference. Might be something that you're enjoying. And Falscraft is saying, this year I think I will vote for the same distillery as you. Well, as I believe it was last year, but not the same. Well, interesting, Falscraft. I wonder what you're talking about there. And Petehead is saying there's only one new distillery, in my opinion, 8 Doors. The rest was there last year as well. No, if you need to read the definitions. A new distillery in the OSWA's definition is anything that's produced in the last, after it's 10 years, it drops off, it's no longer a new distillery. We've got to kind of draw a line in the sand. And it would be a super niche category going forward if you could only talk about a new distillery that's opened in the last year. 8 Doors, how much 8 Doors are you drinking, Petehead? I'm not drinking any 8 Doors, and I don't think anybody else in here is, Frank. So we need to be a bit more kind of stuff that people can actually get their hands on. Mamuka 1977 has bought me a dram to say, cheers with Deanston Chronicles for another successful Whisky Awards, which we waited for all year. Thank you to all. Thank you, Mamuka. Thank you for your dram as well. I am dry. I don't have anything in the glass. I'm going to pour a wee Coquer and cast strength.
I can say go from the bottle. Get a long straw.
The Hogsheads are saying Aquavita, it's not a Scottish one, but Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, good shout. Everything you could expect from a place set up with the help of Jim Swan. Terrific. Jim Swan's left a tremendous legacy, so his fingerprints are on so many whiskies that we are tasting today, now that they're becoming mature. Interestingly, Ardnamurchan are one of those. Okay, guys, quick fire this time. Quick fire as possible for...
Because that one wasn't.
I know, we tried for quick fire. Let's go. Give me your 2 independent bottlers, Gregor. Come on. What would Gregor pick as an indie, and what do you think is going to make it through?
Okay, the US is not great for independents, so I'm going to go with the lowest common denominator as to what I can get, and that would be Gordon MacPhail. My guess for the community, based on a lot of the buzz and activity and posts I've seen, would be the Thompson brothers.
Terrific call. Gordon MacPhail, Tomo is your pick. Julie,
yeah.
Indies.
My pick is obviously going to be Elixir Distillery. I can't not. Like, if anybody's watching and I don't pick it, that's, you know.
You're going to get fired. You'll be walking in on Monday morning.
So my pick's Elixir, and my community picks North Star.
North Star, good call. Good call. Still bringing out fantastic stuff. Wider availability all the time. It feels like more and more of it seeping out into further markets. I appreciate not a lot of it is making it to the States, but some of it is. Gregor, I appreciate your point is absolutely valid. Indies, when it comes to wider distribution, is a tough gig. I think that's the reason that SMWS is doing such a great job in North America, because SMWS are getting malts from Indies onto the doorsteps of people that otherwise would never have been able to try a Linkwood, a Balmenach, and umpteen other Glenlosses and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, sort it, Julie, sort it.
Get it? Yeah, Alexia needs to find a way to do the same. Scotty Monroe.
Right, my pick's Morrison Scotch Whisky Distillers, who do Mactala, but more importantly, the Carnmore range.
Yep.
They have been bottling some extraordinary good bourbon cask Longmorns recently, which have all been fabulous, and some good Glenburgies as well. So that's my pick. They're doing good things.
That's how to get into some dramming in Scotty's camper van, is to bring some good ex-bourbon Longmorns and similar. So that's all you need. That's all you need. So that's Morrison Mackay is typically most familiar for Carnmore, of course.
Old Perth as well.
Sorry?
Do Old Perth.
That's right, Old Perth. They've got the Old Perth blend, brand.
But for Carnmore, their stuff's brilliant. So, and my guess would be I'm going to give a vote to Douglas Lane. I think Douglas Lane, their remarkable regional malts, really popular across the board. So that's my guess.
Morrison Distillers and Dougie Lane. Good shout, Roddy. Finally, this has been the fastest.
So my personal pick would be Dramore.
Dramore, yes, yep.
Yeah, which I know they're still quite small scale, so they sell out very quickly. They're a bit hard to get, but I think the cask finishing that they're doing is, I think they're doing a good job on it. You know, yes, aye. And some of their whiskies are outstanding. They had the latest release. They had a glorious Macduff, and absolutely like a crazy mad secret Orkney, which was just like a wee stinker of a whiskey, you know.
One day, Secret Orkney is going to be Scapa, right? But
I
it's
don't
not
think this
happened
one.
yet.
I
It's
don't
not
think this
happened
one
yet.
was. I don't think this one was.
Aye.
And my community pick, I think, would be Adelphi.
Oh, okay, interesting. Good, Adelphi.
I think
Yeah.
their breadth of the Highlands, Breath of Isla series,
Yes.
things like that. The Fascadale and the
Yep.
what's the other one?
Lauderdale.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Lauderdale.
aye. The Lauderdale, those things. Not so much the single casks because you can't get them, but the ones that they
wider,
do in
the
a big.
small batch stuff, the stuff that's a bit more spread. And I think that's going to be the model for so many indies going forward. They realise that if you only get 250 bottles out of a good yield bourbon barrel, right? They realise that they're going to have to go into vatting. They're going to have to go into small batch. They're going to have to come up with these concepts like you mentioned. Dougie Lang's been doing it. SNWS are doing it these days. Lots more and more people are doing it. And that's kind of understandable. Maybe keep the exceptional single casks for when it truly justifies a single cask release. And the rest of it, consider more of maybe that kind of thing. I understand. But there are lots of kind of smaller indies out there, such as Dram More, such as What Whisky, and more and more and more. That's kind of, it's never going to be widely available because a cask only yields so many bottles. One day, Secret Orkney, says Graham Fraser, maybe a Kimberland. Only Graham Fraser could come out with such a comment. Terrific stuff. Hey, when you find one of those, Graham, let me be by your side. Okay, guys, let's move on to the second but last, the penultimate one. This is to prove about how much the Scotch community are potentially whiskey promiscuous, going out into whiskies from any place all over the world here. We're looking at world whiskies. Let's do this quick fire so that we can dwell on the last category. How do you feel about that? Gregor, world whiskies.
Yeah, sorry, this is one where I strayed and didn't adhere to the criteria in as much as availability. I say that because I have been able to get some. So if I can, I think any human can in the States. So my choice is a Stag Junior for best world whiskey.
That's perfectly acceptable. I think it's a good nomination. I would love to pick up but my, as you know, the gift that you gave me of a bottle of Stag Junior is currently out on loan. But I have loved having here the density that is there, the strong, thick spiced cherry lick that's in that bottle. It's a compelling bottle of whiskey, and I hope the chap Gordon, he's out there, is enjoying it as much as I did when it was on my shelf. Good shout. Next, what would you predict?
But my prediction for a bit more sensibility would be from the community, the Redbreast 12 cask strength, I think.
Good pick. So single pot still Irish. It's a 12-year-old. It's got an age statement on there as well. It's up at 57% ABV. It's about 80 quid a bottle, but it doesn't matter because it's, especially when it gets over to the States, it's been snapped up like there's no tomorrow. It's been widely celebrated as well. I bought a bottle of it last year, and it's also with the exact same Gordon on loan. I hope I get it back before the awards ceremony then, so that I can be sipping and sharing alongside Ralphie. Julie?
My choice would be Cavalan Vino Barrique, Solist.
Vino Barrique. That's quite specific. So the Solist is single cask, but it's wide release. You don't really know. There's not too much detail. It's just single cask, single cask, single cask, single cask.
Yeah.
Vino Barrique. It's the blue label one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is just divine. I've got
now that when we talk about value, Julie, with Vino Barrique, we're talking about in the UK, 180, 220 pounds. It's expensive, right?
Yeah, it's a couple of hundred quid. It's gorgeous though. So good. And my my prediction is Miyagikyo, Nika Miyagikyo.
Superb. Interesting. And now that we can actually buy the stuff, right?
Yeah.
So is this because you're suddenly relieved that there's some Japanese whiskey available, and you think most other people will be as well, and you think it's inevitable it's going to bob in there to a Japanese whiskey is going to bob into the nominations this year again on the back of Miyagikyo? Or?
I think Miyagikyo and Yoichi are getting easier to get a hold of, and I think of the two, and it's personal preference really of the two, I prefer Miyagikyo to Yoichi.
So-
I love Yoichi as well,
So you've
but
gone for Kavalan as a personal pick, and as your
Kavalan
prediction
as
for
a
the release
personal
going
pick.
forward. Yeah.
Nika as a community pick.
Yoichi Miyagikyo from Nika to suddenly we're starting to see more of it available. Still non-age statement, but I think some stories to be shared there in the future as well. Scotty Monroe.
So
I know I said quick fire. It's me that's dragging it out. I'm sorry. Go, buddy.
it's okay. My pick's going to be. I love what JJ Corey are doing in Ireland, so I'm going to go for the Gale Batch 2 specifically.
Nice.
It's a great bottle of whiskey. Demolished it in no time at all. Absolutely brilliant. So that's my personal pick. But along the similar lines to Gregor, my guess is Redbreast, but I'm going to go for the Redbreast 15-year-old rather than 12th cask strength. That's my guess.
Nice call. So single pot still Irish in there as well, and another Irish, a JJ Corey for the personal pick too. Aye, I might need to get a wee sample of that off you, buddy, because I've not tried.
Too late.
It.
It's gone, mate.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone.
I'll get another bottle. Don't worry.
Maybe I need to pick up this one then. Roddy, what's the best world? And I know that you do love going around the world. I remember a moment that you and I had with a Namibian whiskey. You remember the Namibian Onjuba? I can't remember how to pronounce it, but the one that was smoked or dried
with
with
elephant dung.
Yeah.
Aye.
No, but it was Julie. It was magic.
Well, it was really fascinating. We'd recommend.
Yeah,
was it as good as my Icelandic one though? The flocky, the sheep dung.
Sheep dung.
Sheep dung,
I've still got some of that if you want more.
I noticed you never nominated it.
I hate to say, Scotty, but I think the Namibian was better than the Icelander.
I sense a taste off coming, Roddy.
Absolutely. We've seen each other on Tuesday.
Yes, we are.
on that particular vPub that Roddy and I did together, we tried the Floki from Scott Monroe, the sheep dung, and the Onjubada, or from Stefan Novak, the elephant dung one, the Namibian whiskey we tried in the same night. I've got a fruit fly in here. Okay, Roddy, share it. What's it going to be?
So my pick for world whiskey is the Jack Daniel's Triple Mash.
Wow.
It's a fascinating whiskey. It's properly complex whiskey.
I'm writing all these down.
There's a lot going on in it, and it's not a silly price either. And I guess because it's JD, it's going to be fairly widely available.
Yeah, well, I've seen it. It's a kind of yellow label, a yellower kind of Jack Daniel's label, and the other ones are a beige color. Yeah,
I thought it was fascinating. And my for the nomination, I'm with Gregor and Scotty. The Redbreast, I was dithering between the 12 cask strength and the 15, but in the end I went 15. Sorry.
I forgot about Redbreast. I'm annoyed at that.
It's pretty ubiquitous now, Redbreast. It's quite incredible what's done. Redbreast didn't exist just a couple of decades ago, and it's just massive. It's on everybody's cabinets everywhere. Martin Fielder's bought me a wee dram, and he said, Slanchu, I've got to work, but I wanted to send a dram. I'll catch you in the replay, and hope to be around tomorrow evening loving the Dram Face reunion. Yeah, a wee bit of a Dram Face reunion here, absolutely. Martin, it was wonderful to hang out with you and get to meet you. One of my highlights of being in Texas was to get to hang out with you a wee bit, buddy, and thank you very much for your drama, friend. Cheers to you. Okay, so we've got one more to go, and I think that this is. I don't think it's fair to call it the biggest because it's going to be different for everyone. But if we're the Scotch whisky community, and we step up to say, pick one, like the Highlander, right? There can only be one. What are we going to pick? This is the hardest one to pick. Surely this is the hardest. You pick a personal favourite, and you pick what you think is going to be the favourite of the community. Now, I'm not talking about you picking the winner. If you just get one of the 6 that's nominated, because there's so much to choose from.
Yeah,
we have never had more choice than we do today, which I think also justifies something like the OSWA's existing community, crowdsourced celebration. Chris Malloy is saying, would you consider a worst whiskey of the year? Not as long as we have part of the core of the OSWA's being a positive experience, Chris. It's inevitable that people like me fall into kind of criticising and being a wee bit negative from time to time, but I think it's better to try and keep it positive by talking about the positive stuff and encouraging more positivity. I think that's better than shouting and screaming and railing against things that often, truth be told, Chris, we sometimes don't understand. But aye, thanks for your dram, buddy, and it's always nice to have you in and thinking, coming at it from a different perspective from time to time, Chris. Right. Hands up if you found this easy.
Jesus, no.
No, it's not easy.
I found it
I'll
easy.
whittle it down.
Do you find it
This
easy?
particular one.
I have to keep the poker face. I found it easy this year. For my personal pick, I don't think I found it easy to imagine what the community would come forward with. But my personal pick, it was easy. And that's all I can say. After it's all said and done and the dust is settled, I can talk about it. But there's no way that you're going to hear me leading somebody just before the nominations come out. And that's during the public voting, as long as that's live, there's no way you're going to hear me in any way leading the community. What is, I'm just going to leave it at that. Roddy, what would your pick for best whiskey in 2022 nominations be? The Roddy pick. This is the way I almost imagine we should have a drum roll here.
So there was two, Roy, because the first version of the list it was night and day. There was the only one possible whiskey, and it's Long Row 18, which year
the
in,
most recent release.
Yes, this year's release. Year
Your colleague Matthew was talking about how it brought a wee tear.
Honestly, there's something magical about Long Row 18. That said, there's only 9,000 bottles. I don't know. There's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
So when I did the version 2 of the list, where I was trying to think about availability, I ended up going for the Ardnamurchan cast strength, which is again, I know that's limited, but it was a somewhat bigger batch than the Long Row. Well,
let me say that Ardnamurchan cast strength 35,000 bottles versus Long Row 18's 9,000. Yeah. 35,000 still available despite it being launched back in February this year. And just yesterday, they announced on social media batch 2 has come out. So, Roddy, you're absolutely fine. The availability is there. Ardnamurchan cast strength. And that's good. That's 2 for 1 from Roddy. We got an Ardna and a Long Row as well. So good. But what are you going to predict? What do you think the community is going to put forward?
I was really stumped on this. I was thinking Ardnamurchan. I was also thinking, possibly one of the, something like the Loch Lomond Open edition, which I think this year's was just a really interesting whiskey.
Superb. Okay, nice.
But I kind of gave up in the end and was like, yeah, they'll be like me. Ardnamurchan cast strength.
Okay, so Roddy's going 2 for 1 there.
I am, yes.
All the way. Terrific.
There was 9 categories, Roy. I was exhausted by this point.
Aye, well, I'm exhausted too. Can you imagine having to run the bloody thing? Oh. Scotty Monroe, what do you think?
Well, the best whiskey I tried this year, hands down, was straight out of barrel at Springbank. That was a 31-year-old bourbon barrel, which knocked me a Mars. But no one can get that, right? Not even me.
That's right.
So my pick is this. The whiskey has blown me away. It's been mentioned before. I know that Julie's got a bottle of it in hand. I've only brought 2 bottles to the van. I brought an Ardnamurchan cast strength, and I brought this. But this Glenwivis is my whiskey of the year.
Wow, what a left fielder! Absolutely amazing. Terrific. Fair
and
play
it's 3 years old. It doesn't matter. It's just blown me away.
Tropical, right? Tropical.
The night that we had this in your blind challenge, Roy. If you'll go back to the video, you'll see me ordering a bottle as we're live on the air. And this is my second bottle now. Again, I understand there's 8,000 bottles of this one, and I know not everyone can get it. But from my own point of view, I can't see past it. For me, it's given me.
Just to be clear to everyone, this is not the inaugural. This is the
No.
wider release that came out right on the back. This is a crowdsourced distillery. £62.50 for this release. People were thinking, oh no, that's a bit dear. So it's stuck on the shelf a wee bit to let Scott actually be able to get 2 bottles of it. To let me, lazy, always at the coos tail, get a bottle of it. So,
and you can still get it. And I know it's expensive, you know, for a young whiskey.
And
But
it
the
is still
flavour-
spirity. I mean, we need to. This is not super mature. This is 3-year-old whiskey, and it does
It's,
taste like
you know,
3-year-old whiskey.
It's not pretending to be anything. It's not. It's a 3-year-old whiskey, right? So it is spirit forward, but it's fruity. It's got some papery notes in it. When I tasted it blind, I thought it was an old Bowmore. That's how mental that is, right? So that's my pick. That's my whiskey of the year.
Again, that tropical fruit thing, and there's the fermentation side of things that comes through there,
It's lovely.
and it's terrific as well. So, buddy, but you've got to. Do you think that people are going to put forward Glenlivet?
Nah. So my guess is just the hype around this distillery at the moment. I think people might go for, and I've plucked it out. I've gone for a Glenallachie 12-year-old.
Oh, Glenallachie, of course, and of
Just
course,
because of the people are snapping that stuff up at the moment, and there's a lot of. I know it's Billy Walker's releasing stuff. It's not his own whiskey, so to speak, if you know what I mean. But people seem to be loving this stuff at the moment, so I've gone for that.
He's just released a press release this week. 4-year-old peated Glenallachie. It is his own whiskey. He's obviously bringing out his own make as a peated version right now. That makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. But it's 80 quid. And I know what people are going to say about that 80 quid, but we're not going to be able to buy it. So if you're going to whinge about the price, you know, it's kind of wasted breath, because you're either going to buy it or you're not. And if you're going to try and buy it, you're going to be in a fight for it, because it is what it is. It's just the way that we're living right now. Glenallachie, good call, Scotland Row. Julie, super interested to hear what Julie's pick of the year is. Julie's personal pick. Oh, there you go. Glenlivet, I hope you're tuning in.
I genuinely, every single time I've been in the Bon Accord since we tasted it on the blind tasting, I've bought drams for people in the pub to get them to taste it, because I just think it's brilliant. It's tropical fruit. It tastes like passion fruit juice. It's gorgeous.
They're gonna have their work cut out for them to keep this up.
Oh my God.
They're gonna need to chase this tropical thing, because it's compelling, right? We love it. We talk about fruit and whiskey. We talk about, and when we kind of romanticize, as Scotty Monroe hinted at there, you know, these Bowmores that we hear about from the 60s. Well, sorry, I wasn't into whiskey when I could afford Bowmore from the 60s, you know. We just hear about it from other folk. But when we do get a sense of that super lovely, bright, tropical side of it, it's so compelling. And that idea that can be in something that's made from barley is absurd, but it's there. And releases like that, the Loch Lomond, the one that Scotty and I love as well, the Loch Lomond open release from 2020, all of these kind of super fruity whiskies show that with a wee bit of care and a wee bit of attention, it can be done and it can be pulled off. And,
I mean, I personally, I'm really spoiled. I work for a whiskey company. I work for a man who collects old and rare whiskey, and on occasion we get to taste things that, you know, are just out of this world.
You know how privileged you are,
I know how privileged I am. I'm spoiled rotten with the whiskey that I get to taste. But genuinely, this I don't think I've ever gushed so much to people about a whiskey as I have about this Glenlivet.
But that's what's terrific, Julie. You are able to sit at the altar of all the lost distilleries of the past, of all the whiskies that nobody can afford anymore, that become ornaments, and you're fortunate to be in an environment where some are opened. And yet you can still find a brand new whiskey just out the wrapper.
Great.
And you're loving it. And you're not only you're loving it, you're everybody that you're bullying people to try it.
Pioneer.
Perfect. So are you going to push Glenlivet forward? You think the community's cottoned onto that yet or not yet?
Do you know, I had Springbank 18 as my other one. No, but I'll push Glenlivet for it. There you go.
Wow.
I don't think it'll get in, but
well, that's to have Scotty and you endorse it like that's quite compelling. I think a lot of people are going to have a wee peek at Glenlivet on the back of just you guys.
Super worth it, even just to try it by the dram, just to get to taste it. It's just
And it's done the right way as well. It's natural colour, non-chill filtered, 46.5%. You know, it's good stuff.
Right. And if you feel that you've picked up a Glenlivet and it didn't live up to the Scotty and Julie recommendation, they have to they have to buy the bottle off you, right? That's the deal. That's the arrangement that we have. Whiskey with Molly, Ben is saying best new. He's bought me a dram and he said best new distillery in the last 5 years. I get it, but it gets a wee bit niche there. So we've gone for the last decade because that gives us enough. And you know, that category might have to be refined as we go forward, Ben, honestly speaking. Is there going to continue to be an explosion of new distilleries because it doesn't seem to be letting up? Or is it going to start to contract a bit and things will start to stabilise? And we don't know. But thanks, buddy. Thanks for your dram. And it's nice to have you in the vPub as always, Ben. Yeah, I don't think I missed anybody else. Only one left to go. Gregor McWee, the Ramface host extraordinaire.
Oh, aye.
What's your pick of the last year?
Keep it coming. Well, I've struggled a bit here. Much like I said, because I'm the echo is further out, so a year for me is what. Yep. I've gone through the ringer here actually. So I'll tell you a couple that I was going to pick for me and I didn't for a number of reasons. Clynelish 14 would have been one of mine because I bought multiple bottles this year. So by logic, that kind of should be. Glen-Scotia Victoriana would also be in the same category because I chased it and I got some here. But I think the availability for that right now is still a bit iffy. So I'm trying to play nice with the rules. And this is more a summation of where I'm at and how my collection is, that I feel like I need to have this distillery represented in my choice because there's always bottles from this distillery. I've got a pretty long relationship with it now. You can write, but I don't think you might get the distillery. I don't think you're going to get the bottle. So go on. Well, so my choice.
You say it, yeah.
Would be on the softer side of the Highlands, which would be Tomatin.
Oh,
you were good. Roy was going to say Glengoyne, weren't you, Roy?
Was that Glengoyne 25?
18.
Oh, 18. No. Tomatin 18, I think, is tremendous. It's so accessible. I think for the bang for buck, you're not going to get much better. And it won a blind, I think, or I picked it in a blind, or a couple of blinds.
I think that Tomatin has been building and building and building, and the word's going to get out much in the same way that people have started, even in this live stream tonight, in the last few years, talk about Loch Lomond. Tomatin, it's becoming more and more compelling all the time, and you've got young talent in there now as well, ready to step in and take the lead when it comes to the whiskey making. So it's not just about making fantastic whiskey. As we know from Bowmore and Lafroig and so many other distilleries out there, Auchentoshan, it's so much about taking that mature whiskey and what makes it into a bottle. And that's becoming so crucial in how we evangelize and talk about these things. And I think that we're seeing huge changes at Tomatin. I think that's a good call, Gregor, a good call. And maybe I should have seen that from you. Good pick.
No, all good. I treat it more like where I'm at in the year rather than only the year 2022. Do you know what I mean?
Sure,
so
absolutely.
That's that. And then I struggled a bit with the community. My first choice was actually Kilkerran 12 because people can get it, but it's maybe the accessibility probably holds it back. Then I thought again, well, Clynelish 14, but the community is probably not going to go that way. And I sided with Scotty, actually. I think Glenallachie, but not the same bottle. And it's maybe a skew on availability, but I think the 10 cask strength is
interestingly because Victoriana and Glenallachie 10 cask strength were nominations in this category last year.
Okay.
So whether they've got the staying power to maintain that year on year and make it into 2022 remains to be seen, and I guess we'll work out tomorrow night whether that's the case. How has my poker face been tonight?
No bad.
Yeah, you've done okay.
No bad. Listen, we got through it. Just to summarize for everybody watching, after this, there's going to be a wee prize, a wee giveaway. I'm going to mark these guys' scores. They're the kind of benchmark. But what you're actually playing against is whoever can score the best in predicting What is going to make it into the OSWAs? Please share your own personal picks. That's super valuable for the community. The comment section is going to be a goldmine for people to look into and see what people are enjoying, much like things like the Glenwivis and the Elements of Islay and the things that we've been talking about tonight. Share that. But what I'm going to score you on is what you predict. So whatever bottle you predict, you've got there's 6 bottles going to be in each category, so you've got a good chance of it being put forward. But if anybody, whoever manages to get potentially 9 out of 9 or the highest score, and I'll obviously ballot it, raffle it, or do something like that. If there's I've only got one of these. It's the last. This is the last one in existence. That's all I have left. These are the Aquavitae glass toppers. These Perspex glass toppers with 6 different designs. You can't win that one though. That's the Speyside one.
That's
Anyway,
those are my most used. My most used whiskey hats are those Perspex ones because they actually go across a broader.
As a Speyside coin.
I'm
Julie's
in-
reaching for hers. She's got hers in her handbag. Hey! So that's the last one in existence. I found that and I said that'll make a good prize. So it's going to be tonight. So leave it in the comments under the video. Leave what you think is going to be picked tomorrow. And please, if you're interested, join Ralphie and I in this very spot tomorrow night from 9 o'clock and we'll reveal all. Hopefully we can get through tomorrow night a wee bit quicker than we have tonight. But guys, thank you. Thank you so much. I challenge you all to stay for the quiz at the end. It's a belter tonight and it's dead easy.
I might need a whiskey for that. I might need a whiskey.
Dead easy, he havered, right? Let's see if I can bring this in. You can all see that, right?
Yeah.
Yep, see that? Yep. I need to get my ABCs.
I know. I need a pen.
Oh, aye, you need your wee thing so you can hold up your ticket. Listen, everybody,
I'm
thanks.
in the van. Hold on. Sorry, I'll work it out.
Falsgraph is saying I definitely shall join tomorrow. Graham Fraser is saying Glengoyne 18 is a super dram for what was offered as a sample at the end of my distillery tour today. Graham Fraser was out. It seems like every day Graham Fraser is touring distilleries. What a life. Two breaks of poker, but hey, they were all right. Well, Falsgraph, either it was 2 breaks of the poker face or I'm a very good actor. But my personal favourite as of right now, Benromac Germany exclusive, says Karsten T. A 48% Benromac from 2011. Got everything and therefore is very complex in a unique way. First fill only, ex-bourbon, ex-sherry and slight smoke. I'm going to be that enthusiast that says, Benromac, please bring us your core range at 46 as well, because how compelling your cast strength is, your contrast series, the change there, the mouthfeel, everything is so much in check. Rob Halford is saying, Loch Lomond 2011 10-year-old Aquavitae edition for Whisky of the Year. Aye, if we talk about availability, that kicks that into... but I mean, I think everybody in here got to try that. I don't know, maybe Roddy hasn't tried it yet. But there's some of it for you to try. And Whisky with Molly saying, Loch Lomond need to win something tomorrow. Well, it's interesting you use that word win, Ben, because there's 2 parts to the OSWAs. The nominations are a huge part. The ceremony out in November is the ceremony. That's the winner. Hey, everybody celebrates there is a winner. But consider the weeks and weeks that the nominations have been out there. I think that's a super distilled, if you pardon the pun, or a curated, narrowed down list of what people are talking about in whiskey as we speak to you at this point in time in 2022. The nominations are arguably equally part of the whole thing. So win is not the wrong word to use there. Interesting to hear Loch Lomond mentioned tonight as well. Graham Fraser saying a dead easy quiz. We'll be the judge of that, Aquavitae. Okay, let's give it a bash. Let's see how we got on with this quiz at the end. Good luck, everyone. Multiple choices. Always question 1. What has happened to the 2022 OSWAs that's different from the inaugural 2021 initiative? What's different this year? Is it A, it increased its contributor count? The amount of people involved in collaborating to bring it together has increased this year. Or is it B, it added another category? So you know it's 9 categories. That suggests that last year it was 8. Or C, pubs are now also contributing. So we're not only using YouTubers or bloggers or podcasters or social media hosts or reviewers, or we're actually now going to the on-trade or the, let's say, licensed premises to get them involved as well. Which of it is? Hold up your answers in 3, 2, 1. A, C, A. You're all right. All of these things, everybody gets 1 out of 1. It doesn't matter what you answered. All of these things have happened. I think it's fantastic, and it makes perfect sense to have pubs on board. The Ensign Ewart at the top of the Royal Mile, are on board. The Bonaccord and North Street in Glasgow are on board. It's increased its contributor count. There's now 60 invitations went out to participate, and we got 56 responses. So we've got 56 live contributors that have curated the nominations that will be shared with you tomorrow night. And it added another category. Yes, we did differentiate between blended whiskey, blended and blended malt this year. Question.
Can I just say, right, I'm loving this. All am I right? Can we make all the questions like this?
Hey, you'd love it. You'd love it. You'd love it. Question 2. Which of these core ranges were not, up until fairly recently, once vintage statements? So this is something we became used to as vintage statements. One of these that I'm going to give you was never that. Certainly not in recent times. A, Glenrothes, B, Balblair, or C, Macallan. Scotty, do you think that this is a tick, tick, tick?
Aye.
Wouldn't that be a quiz to end all quizzes, right?
Oh my God.
Everybody gets a 10 out of 10. Terrific. That's a good idea. Maybe that's the Christmas quiz. So obviously 2 of these up until recent times were regularly recognised as being vintage releases as part of their core range. One of them was not. Give me your answers in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, I think Gregor and Julie have misunderstood this question. Macallan has never been a core range vintage statement. Balblair was vintage and Glenrothes was vintage statements.
It is. I did misunderstand. Right, okay.
I've used up all my.
It's an
power.
easy question, but it's
tired.
worded awkwardly. Aye, wee bit. Maybe they should have had a banana skin in there. So there you go, Macallan. They brought out their 1824 series, which was famously nothing to do with vintages. It was just a shift to non-age statement. There are Macallan vintages, of course, but none of us can afford them, and they certainly can't be considered core range.
No.
Question 3. What is curious about the Thompson Brothers SRV5 8-year-old blended malt? Now, it might not be that you can buy this, but you've probably heard folk talking about it. What's curious about this blended malt is that A, it uses more than just Scotch. B, it uses a large Solera vat. Or C, it uses exclusively Oloroso sherry casks in the makeup. A, it's more than Scotch. B, Solera vat. Or C, exclusively Oloroso sherry cask matured. What is interesting about Thompson Brothers SRV5 8-year-old blended malt?
Roddy, I saw that.
Just go for it, guys. 3, 2, 1. Hold it up. Scotty, Gregor, everybody thinks it uses a large Solera vat. Absolutely, that's what's unique about it. It's a 1,200 litre. I think it's oak. Roddy, is it oak? He needs to.
If it isn't the oak, then questions will be asked.
Well, I know that, but they're not maturing it in that, right? Because it's a 1,200 litre vat, so that's over the 700 litre threshold anyway. So, but I'm wondering. I feel like it's oak. I'm sure it's oak. Anyway, it's this 1,200 litre vat, and they only ever empty it down to a certain level. I think it's down to 2. There's always a third left in it, I believe. And it's going to be batch after batch after batch release, 48.5% ABV, and theoretically it's going to change over time, maybe even, fingers crossed, get better. I'm already a big fan.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Good stuff. 35 quid as well. 8-year-old malt whiskey. Question 4. What starts on the 30th of September? What starts on the 30th of September? Is it the OSWA public poll for this year, 2022? Is it B, Glasgow's Whisky Festival? This should be an easy one for you, Julie Hamilton. Or is it C, the 14th Whisky Show in London? What starts on the 30th of September? The OSWA public poll, Glasgow's Whisky Festival, or the 14th Whisky Show in London? Anybody that was here in the vPub earlier tonight that was listening to all the chat that went out will know this, even if they don't know this, if that makes sense. Give me your answers. In 3, 2, 1. Go. C for Roddy, C for Julie. Gregor and Scotty think that the OSWA public poll for 2022 goes out on the 30th of September. They haven't been listening at all tonight.
Tomorrow.
Ralphie and I are getting together in
Tomorrow.
this very room tomorrow
Tomorrow.
night to launch the public
Oh,
poll.
I thought it was closed then. Never mind. Never mind.
Honestly, Roy, it's the drink. Also, my bones are frozen in this van.
It's the
Right.
cold.
It's
Aye.
blame the camper van, Monroe. That's fine.
I don't
That's
even know your
absolutely fine.
names.
I don't envy you sitting in that wee van. But absolutely, it's the 14th Whisky Show London starts on the 30th of September. Glasgow's Whisky Festival is the 12th of November. You might remember me talking about it. And the 13th of November, there's going to be an Aquavite event afterwards on the Sunday. And, of course, when we talked about the public poll, Ralphie and I are literally getting together tomorrow night, 24 hours from tonight, to release the nominations and release the public poll so everybody can get involved.
I'll get my
You know
coat.
what you're voting on then. Back to bed for McWee and Monroe, I'm afraid. We are looking at a distillery. We're looking at a fermentation room there. As I don't know if that's not a mash tun on the right. I think it's some kind of receiver. I don't know what it is. But we can also look down and see potentially 4 stills in this picture here. Clearly, I'm going to ask you, what are we looking at? Are we looking at A, Arran, specifically Isle of Arran Lochranza Distillery? Are we looking at B, Annandale in the Lowlands? Or are we looking at C, Ardnamurchan in the Western Highlands? Which distillery are we looking at here? It's no an easy one. I'm crediting Graham Fraser for the picture. He does. It's either a point for him or he disqualifies himself. So he can only score himself 9 out of 9. I don't know, but he's donated a lot of good quality images to me, and they're fantastic from his travels. So I'm trying to use up. I've got one more to use, Graham. I think I need some more, my friend. What do you think, guys? What we're looking at in 3, 2, 1. Arran, and Roddy thinks Ardnamurchan. It's kind of reminiscent to me of Ardnamurchan, Roddy, but that wooden roof isn't part of Ardnamurchan. I'm afraid it is Lochranza. It is Arran. Aye, I've not been yet, but I am visiting in October. I'm hoping to get a wee look under the hood. That would be amazing. Question 6. We're past the halfway point now. Things should start to get tricky now. Which distillery releases a series called the Whisky Makers Editions? There's a Dramface logo here. If anybody reads Dramface, this is going to be easy for them, of course. If we're only occasional readers of Dramface, it might be a bit trickier. But which distillery releases a series called the Whisky Makers Editions? Is it A, the Cotswolds, B, White Peak, or C, the Lakes?
Oh, God.
What are you laughing at, Monroe?
He's laughing because he sub-edits Dramface and he doesn't know that.
It's so cold. So cold.
Oh.
It's so cold.
Oh my goodness me.
Oh, this is going to be funny. Scotty, the pressure's on, big guy.
There's no pressure, Roy. It's all good.
It's all good. Okay, who releases the Whisky Makers Editions? A, Cotswolds, B, White Peak, C, the Lakes. 3, 2, 1. Geese it. Everybody goes for the Lakes. Kicked it out the park. Well done, everyone. Bullet dodged. Fantastic. The Lakes
Still
releases
cold.
the Whisky
It's
Makers
still
Edition.
cold.
Still cold. Eerie Argyle reviewed the Lakes Mosaic recently. He seemed to quite enjoy it too. Question 7. According to their websites, which of these distilleries' official releases begins with an 8-year-old? We're talking about the core range. As of today, as I'm speaking to you in September 2022, which of these core ranges begins with an 8-year-old? A, Glendronach, B, Glenallachie, C, Glengarry. Which Glen begins with an 8-year-old? A, Glendronach, B, Glenallachie, C, Glengarry. Randy Sloan, good to welcome you here. That looks like a new name, Randy. Fantastic if that is a new name. Roddy Graham is Whiskey and Wine Trails is suggesting that you ship one of the blankets in the camper van. What you need to send to Scotty is a slanket, Roddy, right?
That's what we were talking about earlier, Roy. The slankets.
Okay, I missed out the slanket chat in the chat.
I was saying like in term we were talking about branded Aquavitae swag, and I was saying I'm holding out for the branded slanket.
Especially important now as we face an energy crisis, right? Chris Barlow is saying Scotty is clearly in need of a slanket. Chris Barlow, he's obviously on it. Terrific stuff. It was Roddy that came up with this. Have you ever heard of a slanket? And forever dumbfounded the barfly community.
The good thing is my
Sorry, Scotty, go ahead.
My fuel bills are zero because there's absolutely no heating here at all.
You're running on warm breath and whiskey, right?
That's it, man. That's all you need.
All right, is it Glendronach, Glenallachie, or Glengarry? 3, 2, 1. Gregor thinks Glenallachie. 2 think Glengarry, and Roddy thinks Glendronach. Roddy, you're thinking about the healing, which is discontinued. Glengarry, as far as I'm aware, does not have a core range 8-year-old, but Glenallachie has just launched a new core range 8-year-old whiskey.
It was that banana skin that threw me.
Look at the celebration from McWee. We've seen that many times before. I don't know where that puts you, buddy, but good call, Glenallachie. You were listening last week. I had that bottle handy, but I'm actually quite enjoying it. I think it's quite a good wee 8-year-old whiskey. 42 quid. Quite close to their 12-year-old, but it's good. It's good. 8. Who's credited with being the first to create an American single malt whiskey in the 1990s? It's getting tough now, guys. It's getting tough. But this guy is credited with being the first to create American single malt. This is whiskey made from barley in the 1990s. A. Chip Tate of Balcones. B. Steve McCarthy of Clear Creek. Or C. Rob Dietrich of Stranahan's. Chip Tate, Steve McCarthy, Rob Dietrich have all left these distilleries. Balcones, Chip Tate's no longer there, of course. Steve McCarthy's moved on from Clear Creek, and Rob Dietrich has moved on from Stranahan's. But one of these guys is credited for making the first American barley grain single malt back in the 1990s. Give me your guesses in 3, 2, 1. B, CCC. 3 going for Rob Dietrich. Now, Steve McCarthy founded Clear Creek Distillery in Portland, Oregon, where Gregor McWee is coming in from right now. They're no longer in Portland, Oregon. It's now Hood River. It's all changed there, but it was indeed McCarthy's. Steve McCarthy of Clear Creek was the first. Anybody that reads the Malt Whisky Yearbook, the features in there are fantastic. It is one of the features from last year. Looking forward to the new Malt Whisky Yearbook coming out. But if you answer B for Steve McCarthy, you got that one right. The rest of you are struggling a wee bit. Oops. Which distillery once had a large iron crown atop its roof? Big crown right up on top its roof. A. Royal Lochnagar. B. Imperial. C. Royal Bracla. Oh, I'm looking at Roddy here.
Oh.
Yeah, all eyes on Roddy.
No. I thought this was fabulous. I thought it was a fabulous question. I had to share it. It's been a long time in the offing, so it came out tonight. We have the Royal Bracla fan club. I think it's 25% of it, or is it 33% of it?
It's 33%, now. 33%.
33% of the Royal Bracla Appreciation Society is in tonight. Okay, give me your guesses then, I suppose, after 3, 2, 1.
How dare you? Guesses?
Guesses?
Okay.
B. Everybody thinking Imperial.
Only because it's one of the best.
Famously, one of those distilleries that was closed for more years than it was operational. Absolutely Imperial.
Fun fact.
Now, I always imagined that this would be like above a facade or a hoarding or something, and then I found this image. Oh my goodness!
Oh wow!
It was gilt as well. It was gold.
Look
Like,
at Roddy's face.
amazing.
Roddy, that's not going to be as efficient as a Doig ventilator, right? It's going to be. I thought this must be photoshopped, surely, but it was originally put atop there because it was all about Victorian times, Queen Victoria and that era. It didn't last a very long time, probably because it was cast iron. It probably fell through the roof. I don't know, but that is awful but stunning in the same sense.
Brilliant.
Roddy, have
That's
you
amazing.
ever seen that before?
No.
Is it maybe? Could it be photoshopped?
I don't know that. That's
No,
insane.
Oh, that was.
It's
that was
insane. It's
crazy.
absolutely insane.
Did it have an official royal warrant, Imperial? I'm guessing it must have done at some point, but
I don't think it ever did. And it was certainly something that was never sold as a single malt while it was operational. It was always for blends. Or it was very rarely sold, and it wasn't an export product. It wasn't a brand as such. Obviously, Imperial is, now that it's closed, we can buy Imperial today. It's getting more expensive all the time. But I mean, that's just an incredible scene to see.
that's brilliant.
Anyway, we bring us right up to the last question. Is it an asshat? Actually, no. Tonight is not a typical asshat question. Where is that gone? So I had another slide up here with a cross through it where that doesn't matter. Let's share your scores, Gregor. What you on before we hit the last question?
7 out of 9. Passed.
Easy. Julie.
6.
Easy. Scotty Monroe.
6.
Easy. Roddy.
6.
6. Everybody's on a pass mark. Everybody's safe. Everybody can relax. This isn't an asshat question, but it's not an easy one. Let's say that. Sid Martin's on 8 out of 9. Fantastic. Great picture by Graham Fraser, Frank is saying. The Graham Fraser picture tonight was Aaron Lochranza, and it was a cracking picture. Graham Fraser saying, Julie and I recently considered where the crow ended up. I wonder where that, it must have been massive. I mean, it's got to be like 2-3 meters across.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing. I protest, Jimmy is saying, the lack of asshattery. Jimmy, let's just say it's a different take on asshattery tonight. Graham Sprain is saying the crown apparently disappeared in the 1950s. Okay. So it was there, but I'm surprised it lasted to the 1950s. Incredible. Okay, final question is a wee bit of an asshat, if I'm honest. Which Scots surname is written around the neck of a well-known Speyside distillery official bottling? I'm talking about today. If you went into Roddy's shop and bought this today, this surname would be around the neck of a well-known Speyside distillery. Is it A, Duff, B, Hamilton, or C, Monroe?
Oh, beautiful.
Oh.
I see what you did there, Roy. I see what you did.
I was
Very
so tempted
clever.
to put McWee in there. I was
Very
tempted
clever.
to put Graham in there, but you know, I went for the most Scottishy sounding names. Which Scots surname is round the neck of a current contemporary core range bottle, widely available everywhere? It's right around the top of the bottle. Is it A, Duff, B, Hamilton, or C, Monroe? In 3, and 2, and 1. Rob Halford is saying, I see no asshat here. A for Duff, C for Monroe, B for Hamilton, and A for Duff. We're all over the place. It does divide the crowd, doesn't it? I'm afraid 2 of you is getting it right. Duff. Look at McWee. Just hold that celebration.
He's done it again. He's done it again.
Takes the prize. It's absolutely superb. Listen, I'm going to zoom in on this so everybody can see. This is you might be able to just read Duff across the top of that bottle.
All
there.
right, okay. Gotcha.
And this is Ben Riach. It's on the top of all the Ben Riach bottlings. So there you have it. Let's run through. Well, I mean, they've all scored easily pass marks, so they're all celebrating in the background. Jimmy Legg on 8 out of 10, Daniel Williams on a 9, Tom Elmer on 8, Peter Box on 9. Great scores. Sabrina on 7, fantastic Sabrina. Rob too slow on 8. Whiskey with Molly, Ben, I will take it. A 9 out of 10. He's celebrating, terrific. Hoyt, so good to see you. And my friend Don McCausland on 9. Seb K on 6. Passmark Seb, well done, good to see you. Nicholas on 9 out of 10. Andrew Pears on 8. Bimo on 6. Yeah, he's celebrating a passmark. Hoyt has got an 8 out of 10. Terrific. Glenn Anderson, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, Glenn. Terrific, terrific stuff. We have a 10 out of 10 tonight, despite what I think was a pretty awkward quiz. Rob Halford, highest score ever. He's celebrating 9 out of 10. And Steve Atkins on a 9 out of 10 as well. Great scores, guys. Congratulations, Rob. Peter Lee on a 9 out of 10 as well. Well done, Peter. And Graham Fraser is saying, excluding myself from a 10 out of 10 because it's his picture image, 9 out of 9. You take your 10 out of 10, buddy. That counts every bit. Is a 10 out of 10. Would you agree for Mr. Fraser? I think you all would.
Absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. Take the 10 out of 10. Listen, I don't know if you're excited about the OSWAs. We've now talked it to death. I think the takeaway from this tonight is there's a lot of effort gone into this, right? Because everybody's had to go through the process you went through tonight, and there's headache involved in coming up with it. It's effort. And there's nobody putting forward nominations in this thing because of the structure, the way it's constructed. There's no way that anybody can do it for money through getting free product to trying to plant or support things. It's not an echo chamber because we're opening it up to more and more and more people all the time. We're doing the best we can with the tools that we have available today. And it's no easy, but we'll do it. We will make mistakes. It will need refinement time after time. But I hope that going through this process and getting involved and trying to come up with your own nominations, you might realise how tricky it can be. Jimmy Legg has bought me a generous dram. Thank you, Jimmy. We all know the Duffs have been whiskey men as long as there's been whiskey. Great to have the All-Stars on tonight. Cheers. Jimmy Legg sent me a picture of the Clynelish distillery manager from pre-Second World War. He looks like my dad. It's nuts how much this face is a Duff family face. And his name was Duff. His name was Duff. So I need to do some genealogy, or what I actually need to do, because I don't have the time, is get somebody who really loves doing genealogy, and I'll give them the details and they can help me do it.
Just get the car up there, Roy, and just say, see this 41-year-old cask of Brora? It's actually mine.
It's actually mine. It was my granddad laid this down. I think you'll find it's his, and I'm here to just pick it up.
Roy, can I ask a teaser? You know the short list now, right?
Yes.
Can you share which category you were most surprised by as to what's gone in there? Just as a small teaser for tomorrow.
That's a good one, actually, Gregor. I would love to be able to, but I'm 52 and I worked on it this afternoon and I can't even remember what the nominations are. So I can't even do that for you, my friend. But nice try, McWee. Nice try. Falsgraf celebrating his first ever 10 out of 10. I am content now, Falsgraf, my friend. Well done. Congratulations to you. 2 10 out of 10s tonight. Tom Elmer is saying, lovely seeing your guest. It is always a sparkling evening. Good night, barflies. Thank you so much, Tom Elmer. Wonderful to give you a hug. Wasn't it smashing seeing Tom Elmer in Texas last week, Gregor?
It was great. It catches you out seeing people in real life because you never know what to call one another. You're like, you've got so many different handles.
That's right. Is it Tom Elmer tonight? Is it Ross Fudd? Who are you going to be tonight, Tom? But no, he was Tom and it was great. Ebhead is saying, Aquaviti, time for a dram. Kilted Moose. Julie, Roddy, thanks for your excellent choices and the entertainment. Great night. See you tomorrow. And Helen is saying, Aquaviti, good to be able to catch the vPub in the evening. Great panel too. See you tomorrow, all being well. Wi-Fi permitting. Nice haircut, by the way. Helen knows that I was running away from her to get my haircut the other day when I met her. And Graham Fraser is saying, any connection to Homer Simpson's Duff beer? I would like to think so, Graham Fraser. Wouldn't you? I've tried Duff beer, or I've tried a version of Duff beer, and it was absolutely piss poor. I would love the Duff beer to be a cracking beer, and it wasn't. It would let me down. Guys, let's raise a wee glass, shall we? I'm going to raise a wee glass of this Duff Benriach. John Duff's Benriach. No, Roy Duff's Benriach. This is a bottle of whiskey that started off, I didn't know what to make of it. and I really started to enjoy it down as it got to the bottom. Doesn't that happen with so many of them? I'm going to say thank you all for the effort. I know what it takes for me to not only ask you to step forward and sit and hang out with me late on a Thursday night and entertain everyone with a vPub, but you also do the homework as well. And you commit yourself to these opinions live on YouTube for everybody to see, for posterity. And I know that takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of trust. And I'll never, ever take it for granted. I'm very, very grateful. Thank you for being there for me to be able to reach out to you. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for your graft.
Cheers, Barflies.
Julie, I know you've got some packing to do. If you can hang about post credits so that I can say thanks and good luck and everything, and that would be amazing, Julie. Thanks for joining us. Gregor McWee, the same for you as well, buddy. If you can hang out for a few minutes more. Roddy, I know you're knackered after your mountaineering, but I'd be smashing if I could raise a glass with you afterwards. And Scotty, thank you so much, my friend. Same for you. I know you're pure freezing.
It's all right, though. It's all right.
Terrific, everyone. Roddy, Scotty, Julie, and McWee. It's terrific stuff. Just amazing that they're just there and willing to do this thing. I love having them here. It makes it feel less like a broadcast and much more like just hanging out with pals. A bit like it feels to hang out with all of you every Thursday night. Next week, you're going to hear me not talking about the OSWAs. You're going to hear me talking about things that aren't the OSWAs and whiskies that aren't involved in the OSWAs. But next week, you will hear me talking to you about whiskies that you may be surprised I enjoy. These are whiskies that are not guilty pleasures. That's not the right phrase, but things that I'm enjoying in the background. And I'm not evangelizing about them. And why is that? Because they deserve to be evangelized about. Maybe it's to do with price. Maybe it's to do with availability. But there's something that stops me evangelizing about them. So next week's theme is whiskies you're going to be surprised to hear me enjoy and talk about. And I hope that it's something. None of them are involved in the OSWAs. So hopefully it's something that we can all get our geek on again for another vPub next Thursday night. In the meantime, I'll raise this glass and say thank you once more, all of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barflies. I look forward to welcoming you next week. You're all very dearly loved. Slàinte and thank you. No bad, John Duff.